You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right, folks, happy Wednesday and welcome to another great episode of the Dangerous Liberty Podcast, where we know that safety at the expense of liberty is slavery. We got a great show for you tonight. And finally, we got Chris back up in the house.
Hey, I just need a little snow on the ground to break out the old side by side to get over here, you know?
Got summer here.
He just wanted to go for a ride in the side by side.
I mean,
He did. I don't blame him.
I mean,
And you got summer.
And we got summer. Got the whole crew
I wish we had real summer, but
back together.
no, not yet.
Yeah, we got a great show for you. I can't wait to for those of you that missed our last podcast with Charissa, make sure you go watch that again. I'll have Ty, he's back there producing right now. He'll throw up the episode number. But definitely go check that out. It was a great discussion about hormone replacement therapy, among many other topics. And we even started getting into this. I was like, all right, let's just stop. I want to cover this on its own separate topic, have it on another podcast and have Charissa back on here. I think we need to have her on here on a pretty regular basis. This is health and wellness is something I'm very passionate about. I love discussing, and I love sharing that with everybody as well. So first thing I want to do is say hi to everybody. We got John Rollins, Lester, Jason, TG Sponsor, Michael Henn, AM Atkinson, Cold Bore 375, Chad Wyckoff, Anthony Zach, Ted Boyette. And then we also got Otter over there in Rumble. And we got Chris here tonight monitoring Rumble. So we'll try to be a little bit better about making sure that we include our lost boys and girls over on Rumble. For those of you that haven't said hello yet, make sure you do. We got Team 55 MX. And whenever we have a guest, the way that I like to do this is we'll have a discussion. You guys can be asking questions and throwing up comments. And Ty's going to be kind of clicking and highlighting on those, but at the end of this is when we will go back and we will kind of give you guys a time to ask Charissa questions, ask those questions, and again, we want you to be part of this conversation. That's what these lives are all about, and that's what we're here to do. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Charissa on. Charissa, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming on, and it's really nice to have you. How you been?
Good. Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. We're good. Just trying to get all the New Year's stuff going. You know how that goes.
Absolutely.
Fresh start, all the things.
For everyone that didn't, hear your intro last time and didn't see the last podcast, if you will, just take a second and just introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about you and why you're here tonight.
Sure. Well, I'm a wife and a mom to 4 kids. I'm a nurse practitioner. I've been a nurse for about 25 years, and then a nurse practitioner for over half of that time. And most of my career and background was in really just allopathic, very traditional healthcare. That's how I was trained. And I worked in trauma and surgery and hospital and lots of stuff like that. But about 7 years ago now, five to 7 years ago, I started seeing through some of the challenges that were in healthcare and seeing that some of the things I learned in school were not really helping people get better. I was seeing a lot of patients every day in a very busy primary care practice, doing what I was taught, thinking I was doing a decent job, but patients were getting sicker. My dad died of chronic illness, same kind of thing. He was a really good patient, but got sicker, not better every time he would take advice from mainstream medical. And then my youngest of 4 got profoundly vaccine injured, and that all kind of happened right before COVID. So COVID happened, and I had to switch gears or leave healthcare. It was a real eye-opener, and that's kind of what led me down more of a functional medicine route. So I've been doing integrative care, functional medicine, really focusing on hormone replacement, but also just generalized wellness for patients, trying to get people off medicine, helping people take back control of their health, that kind of thing. So just changed directions completely and been focusing on that for the last, five or so years as a nurse practitioner. And in the meantime, I homestead, and we have 4 kids. We homeschool. We do a lot of things. So currently trying to build a pond. So it's crazy.
Never
Yeah.
ends on farm.
That's right. Yeah.
Who would think that building upon is a challenge? I've known several folks that have went down that route, and it's a lot harder than a lot of people think. It's like, oh, it's not a big deal. You
You
just
just dig a hole.
dig a hole, fill it with water. It doesn't often work like that.
Yes. We hope to eventually have some food sustainability with it, and obviously the water and all that. But it's a lot. It's been about a 2-year process. So
No, that's
I
really
think
cool.
we're closer than ever. Praying about it. I mean, it's crazy. But
No, I love, hearing you talk last time about how you'd gotten into medicine and the conventional side of medicine, I guess, and it shouldn't, who would think that just prescribing pills and medications would be considered like conventional, as opposed to what you're talking about, getting them actually healthier, right? Instead of covering up symptoms. But, I really, we hear this more and more, and for the people that don't know it, you can talk to your own doctor. It's crazy that that conventional medicine doesn't really, they don't study health and nutrition the way that they should. They don't do any of those things. And even when I've talked to my doctor about everything from, statins to some of these other things, it's like they are so woefully uninformed that it's crazy. And what it comes down to is you have the people selling these drugs, the pharmaceutical companies, are the ones that are providing the
Training.
training and telling the doctors what everything that they know that basically came from a pharmaceutical company, either directly or indirectly through some of the curriculum that they learn even in school. So it's just crazy to me. I don't want to rehash all that. But, we started getting into the health and nutrition portion of it. And, that's really what I want to focus tonight. Not only do we want to kind of point out the problems with our current food supplies, we can talk definitely a little bit more how that plays into some of the pharmaceutical companies, how they have some control when it comes to the FDA and everything else, but also hopefully give people like some answers and some direction as to like how they can improve their life, how can they improve their health, and how they can improve their health, nutrition that they're getting from their food, and where they can start too. Because
just some action steps. I think just
Mm-hmm.
a couple of things you can change today.
Absolutely.
That can really make a big change in your just general wellness. So I love that.
So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just turn it over to you, and you just kind of take it away. Tell us where to go.
So you're right. That was part of my notes, is just telling you the history as far as nutrition goes. I have a master's degree in nursing, so I got my bachelor's degree originally, and I had one nutrition class, and I dropped it because it was an elective and it was boring. Literally, that was it. My whole bachelor's degree, 4 years of school, that was the only nutrition class I had. And then when I went to graduate school, and I went to great schools, they were wonderful programs. We had a few lectures about nutrition, but they were very mainstream. And even the stuff we learned was not based on anything that I find valuable, and that really hasn't helped out. Things like the food pyramid and my plate and all of that's pretty laughable at this point. And then I got married to a registered dietitian. So we started to realize, as we started having children and things like that, and just started noticing chronic disease in our families, that his education was funded by big agriculture and mine was funded by big pharma. And so we've had to really unlearn a lot of what we were taught. And we pretty much do the opposite of the things that we learned in school, because they are funded by big pharmaceutical companies, big corporations. And I feel like disease is an illness. I mean, a business, illness is a business, and it doesn't really benefit the pocketbooks of large corporations for us to get better and for us to have true prevention of illness. That's really not our model. And so that's kind of what led us to, probably about 7 years ago, I started watching some stuff about genetically modified foods. And I was like, I just got a discernment about it. I just was like, we're one of the only countries in the world where that's even legal, that we can genetically modify our food. And so I started watching that, and I thought that just doesn't sound right. Why are we doing that? It's a little weird. It seems to be very beneficial for big chemical spraying companies, and they say it's to grow more food and all those things. But what is that doing to our body? And I didn't know a lot back then about the endocrine system and endocrine disruption, but I just kind of knew that it didn't sit right with me, that we have two versions of food. There's a goldfish crackers that they sell here in America, and then there's a goldfish cracker that they sell up here. And that made me mad. I just felt like we'd been duped. And I had little kids at this point, and I'm like, what is the deal? And so I started cutting back on genetically modified foods at that time, and started looking for things in ingredient lists. If I couldn't pronounce it, I was like, we're just going to shorten our ingredient list. I had read a lot of books by Michael Pollan, and I love Salatin Farms and stuff like that. So I kind of gotten into that, the sustainability picture of it. But just know that, I grew up in the South. We love you by feeding you. My family was not rich. We were a very middle-class family. My mom worked 3 jobs. We had a lot of convenience food, growing up. So I tell patients that, I'm like, if I can do it, you can do this. These are things that we can do. We can change the way we eat. And it can be very simple. It doesn't have to be this big complicated thing. I think in a lot of places these days, we hear these narratives about how you've got to be a professional to school your children. You've got to be a professional to know what we're talking about with healthcare. You need to be a professional to be able to cook. That's just nonsense. You don't have to have a degree to figure out how to get your crock pot out and start cooking some food at home, or shorten your food chain. Shake the hand of your farmer, go to your farmer's market, start looking at local produce, shorten the list of ingredients that you're eating. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but just some of those little small changes can make a huge difference. And I started to notice, just even hormonally, when we cut out genetically modified foods, and I started to cut back on chemical-based cleaners. Even 5 years ago, we went to more plant-based cleaners and things like that. My hormones got better. I had dealt with infertility for years. That went away. We got spontaneously pregnant with my 4th baby. I'm a walking endocrine disruption case study. I tell people that, just those little things that can really change the way your system functions, which led me down even further rabbit holes. It's like a lot of these things that we're sold as chronic disease, it's genetic, you don't have a choice. I don't agree. I think a lot of things can be healed by the way that we clean up the things we come into contact with as far as chemicals. And we live in a toxic soup. It's really hard to be 100%, but there's things we can control. And food's one of the major ones, that we can really do some big things by just taking away, just making sure you can pronounce the ingredients in the things you eat. Non-genetically modified foods, it does matter. That stuff matters because of the stuff they're spraying on those foods. That used to be enough, and now it's gotten to another level of toxicity with seed oils, and I can go down any kind of whatever you want me to go.
You will talk to everybody a little bit about the genetically modified foods, why that is, when we're talking about Roundup, what that does to the body, what you're seeing in patients and things like that.
And maybe name some of the top genetically modified foods that a common person would eat, whether it be corn or wheat, or, what are some of the top offenders in our food supply?
Great question. I try to bring it down to just basics, because that's how I learn things. I'm a visual person. So genetically modified foods, they call it bioengineered foods now. That's the new buzzword. So if you see that label on your food, first of all, you're not going to see it just like advertised. So if you pick up a box of Cheerios, most of those commercial cereals, the cereal aisle is a really good science experiment aisle at this point, and the bread aisle. So those 2 aisles, you can go down and find some really sad offenders. So the cereal aisle, if you pick up a box of Cheerios, on the front, it may say, oh, it's good for heart disease. It's good for you. But really, that's a marketing ploy. And I just want y'all to understand, I do this for a living. I spend a ton of time talking about stuff like this with patients. I struggle. I even struggle. I go to the grocery store and it is dizzying, the marketing versus reality, right? So it's like, what is real? Like, this thing says that gluten's bad, and then this week it's sugar, and then next week it's carbs, and then are we high protein? Or are we like high fat? Like, what, fat free? And then there's just so much that even I get super confused. Even I come home sometimes with things where I'm like, what in the world? I cannot believe that they snuck that seed oil in there, so when it comes to genetically modified foods, it's bioengineered ingredients, and the biggest, most adulterated foods at this point are corn, wheat, and soy. And so a lot of patients will come to me and say they have a gluten problem, which you would think is like a wheat issue. And most of the time I'm going to say, there's people that have celiac disease, like that is a thing, but it's very rare to have true celiac. Most people have a wheat sensitivity problem because wheat is one of the heaviest sprayed crops at this point. So it's just really dirty wheat that you're allergic to. Of course you're allergic to it because it's Roundup.
Right.
It's so when you're looking at something that's got it's genetically modified, that means they've put pesticides on that crop. So it's not necessarily the wheat seed that's the problem. I mean, it kind of is, but it's the fact that it's been modified to be able to be sprayed with Roundup and grow anyway. In other words, there's people that have taken, GMO corn. Like if you Google a picture of GMO corn seed, it's pink and blue. It's got impregnated with Roundup and impregnated with chemicals. So when that food, it grows fast. It's just like if you take a cow and you feed them corn, which is not what they're supposed to eat. They're ruminants. They're supposed to graze on grass all day. But if you feed that cow corn, you're going to fatten that cow quickly so that you can turn over a profit on that commercialized meat. But if that cow has been fed with genetically modified corn, you're eating the flesh of that cow. And so by way of that, you're still getting that glyphosate or Roundup. So glyphosate is great. I mean, I grew up in the country. We had Roundup. It's great at killing weeds. I just don't understand why we're consuming it at the volume that we are. And I mean, technically it's being sprayed in our skies. It's everywhere. I used to say that it was slowly killing us. Now it's not even slow. I mean, I can go in a store and pick out people who are very chemically loaded just by the color of their skin. At this point, people come in and they have a gray appearance to their skin. They're very sick. I mean, we have never been more fed, but malnourished ever. What we have created in population right now is unheard. I mean, you see people who are very overweight or they're very sick and they look like they're overfed, but they're malnourished because the nutrition or the nourishment of that food is so poor. And so when you talk about the seed that's actually being planted, you can turn over profit and make a lot of food out of the corn, wheat, and soy. But the nutritional quality of that plant is very poor. If you've ever gardened, you know how hard it is to get minerals back in the soil. And I'm doing everything I can with like really good technique and all the things. But if you have a monoculture where you have a field and all they've ever grown there is corn, they've never rotated the crops, your food is only as good as the dirt you have it in. So if you've got this dirt that's completely depleted, the food's going to be depleted too. So even organic produce at this point is not that nutritionally great. I mean, it's better than not. And, there's definitely the dirty dozen that I tell patients about. You want to splurge on the dirty dozen, getting organic options for that. But even our meat is tainted by this glyphosate thing. It's everywhere. And so what does glyphosate do? It kills everything. It's a weed killer. And what it does in our system that we know about is it's a neurotoxin. It kills all of your good gut biome. So if you want to talk about gut flora, I mean, I could do a whole podcast on gut health and how that's affecting our overall health. But your gut, when you think about your gut, it just needs to simply be something like you want your good bacteria to overpower the bad, right? So that affects your immune system. And then when you have leaky gut, that's where you're getting gut contents into your bloodstream, and that causes all the inflammatory issues, neuroinflammation being one of them, which is what every child suffers from if they've got ADD or ADHD, autism. All of that's neuroinflammatory. I believe there's a complete gut-brain connection there. So if you've got, a child that most kids are picky eaters anyway, especially if they're on the spectrum. I know, I've dealt with that for years. They just want, crunchy snacks, and a lot of them are filled with glyphosate. They all have leaky gut, in my opinion. Their brains are on fire from all the neuroinflammation. And that's just one thing, glyphosate. There's so many things that are causing this at this point. So anyway, that's the whole glyphosate thing. It's really tough. So what do we do about it? Because that's the thing. I can sit here and tell you forever what's wrong, but most people don't know, okay, so what does that mean when I go to a grocery store? Like, what does that look like when I'm shopping at a grocery store? And I think the biggest thing is, and this is the GMO thing. So I can talk about the seed oil thing too, and I'm fully prepared to do that. And that's my new thing now, is like, we got to get these seed oils out of our diet. It's insane. But if you're going to buy something, you know, ketchup or whatever, try to get an option. Well, make your own. I mean, honestly, and I know most people aren't there yet, but if you can go back to just basics of, if you can read the ingredients, if it's got a non-GMO label, if it's, you know, then you're looking at something a little bit cleaner. But like I said, this is getting so layered and complex. I remember when it was just, you know, I was just worried about GMO and MSG, and now it's like, I can't trust anything. I mill my own flour now. I mean, it's a dark, deep hole when you jump off this ledge, but
Well,
That's someone asked to. Go ahead.
and I think that's like, look, this is a gateway thing, right? We didn't just end up in a situation where all of our food was nothing but sugar and GMO carbs and
Pesticides,
pests and all, and plastics and all the other things that we'll get into deeper. And I think that's the key, kind of one of the things that you hit on, because I know that's kind of where Summer and I started with some of these things, is like, all right, let's focus on this. And then the next thing you know, it's like you start paying a little bit more attention. It's a little change at a time. And then the next thing you know, when your family and friends come over, that they think you're a bunch of hippies or something, because you got all this weird stuff. And you do weird things, like, you know, like we started making our own the rendering the fat
tallow.
You know,
tallow. That's awesome.
And you know,
I brought home a SCOBY yesterday, and my kids just were like, "What is that? A SCOBY for kombucha?"
Yeah.
And my husband was like, "It looks like a liver in a jar." I'm like, "Well, it's good bacteria." So yeah, I mean, it's hard.
Our own bread and things like that. I've just kind of gotten time poor, but I need to make time for some of those things again.
But yeah, you know, it's those little steps at a time. And now, like, we don't have any, you know, vegetable oil or any seed oils, and we pay attention to those things.
No margarine.
And it's the little things that you start off doing that end up making a huge difference. So I know a lot of people out over in the comments, you know, they feel like many of us do. It's like, we don't have time to do this. We don't have time to make ketchup.
Or it feels super overwhelming that there's so much in there that nothing.
No, you just say, forget it. You know,
forget it.
Pick one thing and you know, pick one thing. Maybe it's seed oils. We'll talk more about those for sure. But pick one thing and start trying to get a little bit better on that. What were you going to ask?
Right. It was for Charissa. Sorry. In how do I start? I've worked with in my previous careers, I've worked with delinquent children and stuff like that. And of course, I grew up in a rural area here in West Virginia. So, and I've been to the cities and everything. You know, people don't think I have been, but let's just say when I was younger, you didn't see as many kids on the spectrum.
Yeah.
As you said it, do you think that glyphosate is getting that secondary contamination starting at embryo stage that's leading to more of these kids on the spectrum? Because we have a 1-year-old with me and my wife, and we visited, I believe it was 3 new babysitters, and every one of those babysitters had a kid on the spectrum. And I was like, it seems like it's running more rampant and rampant and rampant. Do you think that's a direct correlation to this situation at hand, or do you think there's more to it than that, or there's other, you know, factors into that? And just, I think it's so much wider band than it was 20 years ago, 40 years ago, you know?
Yeah. So it's multifactorial. Yes. But 100%. I think that, but I also think that there's a lot of problems with vaccines. And if you go and look at, you know, Children's Health Defense is a great website. If you just start kind of scratching the surface, you're going to see it's a neuroinflammatory issue, and neuroinflammation comes from, you know, just the things we eat, the things we come into contact with. It really affects so much. So I have what I call kind of my endocrine cleanup list. And the first thing on that list is food. And so we do go into like GMO versus non-GMO, real ingredients that you can pronounce. What are some shortcuts you can do at home? Listen, y'all, I grew up on Tang and Spam.
Me too.
And I'm telling you, if I can do it, you can do it. And I get it. It is a big financial investment. It is. I'm not going to lie. but bad food costs a lot of money too now. So, and the nutritional density of that Chick-fil-A meal is so poor when you can go and spend $25 at Costco, get a rotisserie chicken, get you some good stuff, make your own. I don't know. It's just, I do spend a lot of time. I mean, I have 4 kids. We have 2, I work a lot of, work a decent amount of hours. We homeschool. And it is very dizzying and it does get very tough, but it's like at a certain point, we decide what we're going to spend our money on. We decide what we're going to do. And what is what are you willing to do? So my thing is I've watched people have longevity of life, but not health. Right. So I feel like you're either going to make an upfront investment in your food and your toxicity of the things you're doing in your home. And you're going to hopefully, I mean, I could get hit by a bus tonight, but I'm hopefully going to get that payoff for my children one day. And it may not even be my lifetime, but maybe in their lifetime, it'll be a little easier for them to not have to start from scratch like me and my husband have had to do. But I know for a fact that healthcare in your older ages, that's not cheap either. So, and it's definitely not going to reap any type of quality of life. I promise you that, because I've been there and I've seen nursing homes and what that looks like. And so, I don't know about y'all, but we had kids late. I was 30 when I started having children. I want to be that grandma who's out there hanging out. Like, I don't want to be this person who, but that's what I grew up with. I mean, a lot of illness, both sides of our family, so sick. My dad died at 66. It's something that you either have to just start to decide, okay, I'm done. And I got pissed off. That's what you have to do, is just be like, you're up against it. You've been duped. These companies are getting rich off of your misfortune and your family's illness. And so you either start to decide, you know what, I'm not going to fund that nonsense anymore. And it does have to be like something where you're just like, I'll figure it out. This weekend, I took chicken carcasses and I put them in a big old stock pot thing I got off of Facebook for $45, one of those big crock pot things. If you go on Weston A. Price, if you look up Ancestral diet, I'm learning too. Like, literally the stuff that I learn on these podcasts for Weston A. Price, Wise Traditions podcast. That's the thing. I literally still, like, I was listening to them today to prep for today and such. My mind is blown. It's stuff I'm like, I never even realized this. But if you look at the Ancestral diet, Weston A. Price was a dentist in the 30s who started to go around the world and look at healthy cultures. And he started to see commonalities between these cultures. Even though they lived nowhere near each other, they had things that they were doing. And these were people who had long life, no chronic illness. We didn't have autoimmune disease 100 years ago. That wasn't even a thing. Autism, like you said. I mean, I could go forever. All this chronic disease, it's been created on purpose. And so when you start to get mad about that to a point where you get to the end of that and you're like, all right, this sucks and I'm going to figure this out. That's when you start doing things like taking chicken carcasses and putting them in a crock pot and making your own bone broth, because you realize that the collagen in that bone broth is so beneficial to your health. And it's so dirt cheap to make. Y'all, I've yielded like 40 quarts of chicken broth, and it's gel, and that's what you want your chicken broth to look like. It should not be water.
Too. It was like jiggly. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I used to think that was gross. Now I'm like, dude,
it's delicious.
That's the best.
Yeah, he drank it all.
It's so good for you, and it's the stuff. And fermentation. Like, I used to think that is ridiculous. What in the world? And now, I'm trying to do some kombucha on my own, and I'm, we're doing sourdough every day. I'm making sourdough bread. And I mean, it's just, listen, you will make time for the things that matter for you, that you will. It just is what it is. And this weekend, I'm going to learn how to make pasta, because commercial bought pasta, even organic, makes me sick. It makes me hurt. It makes my joints inflamed. I have a daughter that I'm worried she's got some diabetic stuff going on. So I'm struggling too. Like, I just want y'all to understand, like, we work at this and are having a hard time. So my heart really, truly goes out. It is very, very difficult. I have family members that think we're nuts. And then when they get super sick, they want to call me. And I'm like, dude, like, I can't change 50 years of you eating this way. So, bone broth,
It wasn't
Lasting
really
in the
that long ago, and because I was, where I grew up in Georgia, and I'm not that old. I won't give away my age. But
29.
I mean, my grandparents lived next door. We always had a massive garden every summer. We raised, pigs and things like that, and took them to the butcher. And
Yeah.
I thought it was so weird when we had to go buy canned vegetables because we ran out of our own that we had canned all summer. And it wasn't that long ago that wasn't weird.
2 generations. We've lost it in 2 generations. And some people, they're actually first generation.
Yeah.
So my friends that are, Puerto Rican and Mexican, like they're the first generation. Like they're like, oh yeah, my grandma ate like this. Like that's what we do. And it's so interesting to me, that sociology of that. And the fact that you grew up like that is really awesome. And I have a lot of friends that were like that here. My granny's generation, they were Depression era. They had 13 brothers and sisters. They were sharecroppers in a little farm in Turbeville, South Carolina. And her sister's the one who taught me how to can, so bone broth, if you don't can it, if you leave it in the fridge, I've had it last, 2, 3, 4 weeks. I mean, honestly, they're probably not going to tell you that, I'll open it and smell it. I do pressure can my bone broth, but if you pressure can it, it's going to kill all the goodness. So you don't want to get it super hot like that. But if you have we use a ton. I mean, we make a ton of soups and chilies and stuff where I'm using bone broth.
Yeah.
We put all of our, like if I'm making rice or quinoa or brown rice or whatever, I don't put water, I put chicken broth because it's just so much more flavorful. And that's what I do is I really try to make healthy food taste good. And that was the thing, that was the misnomer I grew up around. It's like, oh, well, if it's good for you, the fat free and it's going to taste bad. Well, that's just silliness, because the best thing about the ancestral diet is you get to eat butter and it's good for you, and you get to eat cheese and it's good for you, and fermentation and sourdough. And I don't feel guilty about eating freshly milled sourdough because I know that. All right. So when you think about like the history of all this, I really feel like it had to do with the industrial flour, sugar, and then even seed oils. If you look at the history of seed oils, they call them, vegetable oil because it sounds better. But back after the Civil War, the whole history of seed oil started with cottonseed oil. And it was a really hard sell back then because that group of people were like, that's stupid. They had to literally market seed oil that it was going to make your kids smarter and animal fats were dirty, right? So that's not an accident that happened. These are marketing things that have been going on for a long time. Same with flour. When my mom was growing up, it was that lily white flour. That was the thing. And now we're like, what? That's the worst stuff for you. It's awful. They've taken everything good out of it and fortified it. My husband said that. He's like, if it's so good for you, why do you have to fortify it with fake vitamins when it starts out as something beautiful? When you mill your own flour, you get all the good stuff. People with really bad gluten intolerance issues, if they start milling their own wheat, they can eat bread again and not feel bad and sick all the time. And they don't have all of that issue because you're getting all of the nutritional quality and density of that bread. And I don't feel bad about that. And it's amazing.
I've heard of people that have a wheat intolerance or even maybe have called themselves having celiac disease. They go to Europe and they're able to eat all the wheat products there and have absolutely no issues with it. And the minute they come back to the States and they try to eat wheat again, the same symptoms come back up. So,
it's just sad standard American diet is sad. It is sad for sure because it's not sad for the businesses that make money.
Chris, I have a question for you. It's my understanding that part of the reason seed oils are so bad, and please correct me because I'm probably wrong, is that because the process to extract them is so difficult that they have to use chemicals to extract the oils. Is that correct?
No, you're not wrong at all. So seed oils, y'all, so I researched this a lot and I have a lot of good friends that are very like-minded, and like we all do, we all start to kind of collect those weirdo friends, and I love my weirdo friends. And some of them went to school with me, and one of my friends sent me a thing, and she said, you really need to talk about seed oils next time. And I'm giving her mad props because she's awesome. But she sent me this article or a podcast from Weston A. Price, Wise Traditions podcast, and it was this guy talking about seed oils. And it was 2 weeks ago and it blew my mind because I knew they were bad. I mean, I knew that. I was like, all right, we're gonna cut back on seed oil. But the amount of greenwashing that's going on. So even my fancy supplements that I've been, recommending people have canola oil in them and the cod liver oil. And I was so mad by that. But back to your question. So the seed oils are things like canola, sunflower, safflower, the vegetable oils that we grew up on,
Even corn oil, right?
corn. Oh yeah. Corn oil, soybean is the worst. I mean,
Yep.
just, ugh. But pretty much anything you buy, like I would go to Costco and think I was doing a service by getting the organic, whatever snack chip, any chip snack, it's going to be, you're going to have to really look for one that's cooked with the good or the good oils, like the better oils like avocado and things like that. And you're going to pay more for them. And that's the frustrating part, is that seed oils are really, really cheap. They're easy to get, and it's because they're inexpensive, but they're causing such a problem. So in that podcast, he was talking about the processing of seed oil. So yes, it's an oxidative process. And so anytime somebody uses the word oxidative, I want you to just immediately think inflammation. All right. Mm-hmm. So oxidation is what happens when you have a rusty gate. You have rust out in a field somewhere and it's oxidating, it's rust. So I believe oxidation is the root of all evil. I want zero. I want zero oxidation. I want zero inflammation. Just like when I said the thing about aluminum last time, I want no aluminum. I don't want to have anything that's like that in my body. So when it comes to inflammation, if you're getting labs to look at inflammation, I want those labs as close to zero as possible. I don't want to have inflammation in my body. So when you say that seed oils are the most oxidative of the cooking oils, how is that healthy? It's never healthy. So I would want to be on the type of seed oil, or type of cooking oil rather, that's the lowest on the oxidative scale. And so the part of the oxidation is the way that they process it, like you just said. And the other kicker for seed oils is a lot of times they're in fried food. So if you go to a fast food restaurant and they take that big fry oil vat where they do their French fries and stuff like that, the worst thing you can do is have that thing and not change it and reheat it and reheat it. And every day they're reheating it. Every time they reheat it, it's increasing the oxidation. So it's already oxidative, and then that reheated oil. So I remember even a year ago or so, I'd be like, why do my joints hurt so bad if I splurge and get some French fries at the softball field? Because my kid plays softball. Well, it's because it's probably some old oil that they reheat because they're trying to cut corners on costs and stuff like that. But that's the reason why, because it's extremely oxidative. And when you look at research on seed oils, the oxidative effects start happening within hours of consuming. So it makes total sense as to why the next morning I wake up, I can't move my hands and my joints hurt. So it's part of it. And the other kicker is these omega-6s, these seed oils stay in your system for 3 years. You cannot get them out. So even if I wanted to teetotal it, which I've done since the new year, I said, I'm done. I'm not doing them. I don't want any seed oils. It's very hard to do, number one. Number two, it would take me 3 years of completely not eating them to get them out of my body because the half-life is so long. And it's this collective thing. And so you need to think in your head, like, this has been done to us. It has. It's on purpose. Because when you look at our healthcare statistics, that's what that podcast I listened to what was so mind-blowing to me, is we know how bad our health looks now, right? Like anybody knows that all of our health statistics, heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, metabolic disease, obesity,
dementia, which I believe is totally related to diet.
Totally related to oxidation. So dementia in my mind is inflammation in the brain, right? So it's just the old person's version of really neuroinflammation, right? So oxidation and inflammation are they're the same when you think about that. But just when you look at the statistics of even our sugar consumption, I am not saying that sugar is good. I'm not saying that. But when you look at our sugar consumption, our carbohydrate consumption, and our seed oil consumption, seed oils are through the roof now. It's the cheap thing to get. We eat it all the time. It's in every processed food. every single, processed food because they say it's good for your heart. That is a complete bunch of bunk. I mean, it does lower your LDL, but you know why? Because it oxidates your LDL, which is a contributor to inflammation. And what has lowering LDL done for our statistics? Nothing. They've gotten worse. I told y'all that last time. For the last 20 years in healthcare, what have they said? Drive cholesterol down, drive it down with statins and the unsaturated fats and all the things. But what has that done to our health status? Are we living longer? Are we living better? Are we better quality? No. And the only thing that's gone up in a direct correlation to all of that other badness is our seed oil consumption. And so there are people out there saying that seed oils are legit contributing to cancer, obesity, metabolic disease, all of it. And I'm not saying in the perfect holy grail of a toxic food would be something with seed oils and highly processed, right? And that's how you see them. They're always, in these really highly processed foods like, these chips and
Goldfish.
fast food and stuff like that. Just goldfish crap.
Well,
I mean, yeah. So
I do think I do think our bodies at this level in 2025 now, it's almost like we're getting to a point of it's a breaking point, right? Since the 30s and 40s, they've been introducing more chemicals into our foods, into our water, into everything. And then we get into the medicines, over prescriptions of, antibiotics, seed oils. Now we add GMO foods. It's just one thing after another, after another, after another. And I think it's really starting to come to, in the 90s, I think was really where we started to see it, the 90s. Because again, just like Chris said, I was born in 1980. Like, I didn't meet anybody in school that had any sort of, that was autistic or I definitely never met anybody with a peanut allergy. Didn't hear about that until I was like in high school.
Or even the
you
level,
have a peanut allergy, like you are a weak person.
Or even the level of anxiety and things like that in children and teens and
I just think as we've continued to add on and add on and add on, we've as a society, we've gotten to a point where like the human body just can't take anymore.
And then not only that, they've sold it as normal.
Yeah. And then on top of that, we get less sunlight, we get less exercise, or more sedentary. The more sedentary you are, the more that you shove all of those bad things more into your pie hole.
My bad.
Same. I mean, we all do it. So it's definitely, and there's a reason. It's not an accident. This isn't coincidental. You are truly up against it. These are huge companies. When they started losing money with big tobacco, they all just flipped over. The lobbyists all came over to big ag and big pharma. That we are up against it. And so that's the part is like, get upset, but then start doing something about it, because there are some things. That is the beauty of it, is you can't be 100%. I'm gonna tell you, we are in a toxic soup. We really are. But there are some things where you're like, I'm just gonna start doing that at home again. And it's my way of connecting with my granny, who I haven't had for a long time, because I remember things that she used to do. And I tell people that. I'm like, just think back. It's not that long ago, especially if you're lucky like Summer, where you grew up out in the country and you remember those fond memories of being around your family where they were, they did things the right way. And it's like, but we've been sold a bill of goods that we're not smart enough to educate our own children. We're not smart enough to be our own, advocate for healthcare. We're not smart enough to cook our own food or prepare food for our families anymore. Or, oh, it's dangerous to have your own food, your own farm, or raise your own chickens, or, oh, that's scary. It's not. It's crazy. What's scary to me is when you really scratch the surface on industrial meat and the fact that they're cleaning your meat with bleach, and they don't have to, but they're saying it's for food safety. Food safety, I mean, it's bananas. But you can use apple cider vinegar to clean your meat. So, I mean, they can choose to do that. They're choosing this on purpose. It's intentional. It's insane. And so my husband and I just kind of did this as a joke, because I was looking into the seed oil thing. And obviously it's like, I'm like in this now. So my whole poor family is kind of coming along with me. So, My husband was like, you know what? I'm just going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to go on Google and I'm going to put in a search for seed oil.
I've done that recently too.
Yeah, it took 2 seconds for him to get this beautiful article from the American Heart Association. So, of course, you're going to trust it, right? About how seed oils are not bad for you. And there's a few people there's a few crazy people on podcasts that are demonizing seed oils. Yeah, we're on podcasts because we aren't allowed to be on the American Heart Association because we didn't sell out to the big companies that are out there making us sick on purpose. And it's garbage. This whole article is so pathetic, y'all. I took it apart. He literally said, they get this big wig name guy, this doctor, who says that seed oils are not bad for you. He literally says in this article, while omega-6s, seed oils, are pro-inflammatory. So he just said to you, they're inflammatory. I just told you, I don't want any inflammation. We're already dealing with inflammation. The amount of inflammation it's associated with has not been shown to be harmful.
Any inflammation.
Where? Right. Okay, well, where? Because there's nothing to really truly document that. That's just one of many statements in this article that are absolutely ridiculous. He says that we need it in our diet because we don't make it. Maybe we don't make it because we don't need it. How about that? Have you ever thought about that? Like the fact that God didn't get it wrong.
Right? Like arsenic either.
You got it. I don't make glyphosate either. So, but we need that. Like it's just ridiculous. So these are the things, though, when you read an article like this, you start to realize, wow, the narrative sounds familiar. That's what they say about vaccines. Oh, wow, that narrative sounds familiar. That's what they said about the COVID shot. And they demonize things like ivermectin. And they demonize people like me who are podcasters. We can't talk anywhere else. We're censored everywhere.
Yeah.
If I said anything about this, I'm coming against big 3-letter organizations. And this is literally the American Heart Association. The very company that's supposed to be helping us.
Yeah, they're the same company that used to tell you that margarine was heart healthy over regular butter.
And they still do, Gary. They still do. They're still saying that stuff. They still say, they say in this article that it's good for you because it lowers LDL cholesterol. And my question back to them, big people in the whatever they must be making a ton of money, is what has lowering LDL cholesterol done for our overall health as a country, as a people, right?
Nothing.
I mean, I'll wait. You're going to tell me? Because there's nothing. There is no correlation between better health and better outcomes for our kids and our family. And I'm telling you, when you look at when you look at the other side of it, these crazy podcasters, they're actually very smart too. And they actually can show you a direct correlation to increasing cancer, strokes, heart attacks, neurodegenerative problems, all these things that I don't know about y'all, but I've already lost a ton of family members to. Yep. And that's the part that's frustrating is I just want something better for my kids. I want something better for my grandkids. This is way bigger than just me. And it may be something I don't live to see, but maybe a couple generations from now, I was teaching my son how to do sourdough. And that's the kind of thing. It's like, nobody taught me that stuff. I didn't learn that. My mama, we would open a can of corn. That was the vegetables that we got, Yeah. It's crazy. So,
and your mama was doing the best she could.
She was, and she tried. She tries. It's just, and we got sold a bunch of lies. And I think that was the one, like I said before, the big silver lining of this whole nonsensical, crazy 5 years that we've all just lived through is people are waking up, and there's a lot of us, and we're not just crazy podcasters. I mean, we're really sick of it. We're sick of being treated like we're stupid. I mean, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but when you say that, they're pro-inflammatory, but it's not been shown to be detrimental. What does it even mean? That doesn't say that out loud. That's just ridiculous. It's anyway, you can tell it's an organized narrative, right?
100%. They're very formulaic. They got it down. Like you said, it's a pattern that you can easily see and recognize. It's the same thing that they've been doing with every, I don't care whether you're talking about GMOs, those are really good for you. I don't care if you're talking about fluoride, all these things. Yeah. And by the way, folks, I am highlighting your questions over in the comments, and I'll end up going through all those, going back and hitting all those. I see all these questions. And also Dave Hill, I know you're asking me about some things that you emailed me. I haven't seen those yet. I've gotten a lot of emails over this. I have been going through those. So just be aware of that. And we will be answering all of your questions. Like I said, I'm going through here and I'm highlighting them, and we'll go back and hit all of those when we get a break or as we start to wind down a little bit as well. So
Yeah.
It does.
I don't want to make people feel bad. That's the last thing I want to do is, I mean, I get it. I am so stressed too. Some days I'm just like, I'm trying to keep it all going, I'm like doing my Bible plan, and I'm like trying to homeschool or trying to make sourdough. It's crazy time.
I need to come take lessons from you.
What's real quick before you go on?
Yep.
Because it just seems like when I was a kid, and it did. I guess it would be my parents' generation because I remember going to grandma and granddad's house. We would dig the potatoes. We would snap beans and can them. We would shell peas and can them. We would put the corn on the mandolin and freeze all that stuff. And it started petering out with my parents, which we still did some, but we had a lot, abbreviated garden. And then to me now, it feels like there was so much more time then. And I don't know where that time.
Because you didn't have households that were forced to have both parents working full-time jobs.
That's gotta be it, isn't
and that's
it?
the standard.
Because grandma
now.
was always home.
Yeah.
It's 100% it. It's 100% it.
Yes.
And listen, 5 years ago, if you'd have told me I'd be homeschooling, I would have told you were nuts. But when this all happened, I'm so grateful that it happened when it did. In some ways, now I am one of those big advocates for people for homeschooling. I'm like, listen, take your kids home. You don't need all that stuff. Legit. They will be fine. You will be fine. You don't need this. We just all got sold a bunch of lies, a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that much time. I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world. And there are days I come home and we eat leftovers. But really since the new year, I'm like, we're not eating out. If you're going out, you're not going to get anything healthy. You're just not. And not that you can't do it. It's not that you can't splurge and do that. I mean, I've got just a list of things you can just do that are like, start today. Make one change, one change.
I'll add to that. I mean, Gary and I did the paleo diet for quite a while, which was a little bit of an adjustment, but in a way it's a little not a little restrictive. It's restrictive, right? But it does force you to clean out the wheat from your diet, the grains, the dairy that's full of, God knows what else, because it's commercial dairy. Paleo, I feel like I had the most energy and felt the cleanest I had ever felt in a long time. Yeah. We both looked phenomenal. Well, Gary did. I don't, but
I beg to differ.
We were lean. We were healthy. We had energy. Just by cleaning out a few things out of our diet, and certain oils. You were only allowed to use certain oils like avocado and olive oil, coconut oil.
Well, I wanted to hit that. We've talked a lot about seed oils, and Charissa, feel free to add to this. But what we do now is we're either the only oils that we use are extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, butter, ghee,
and tallow.
Mm-hmm. We actually don't use ghee. I've never.
We have it,
but yeah. Anyways, but I mean, every single day we're using olive oil. I actually put it in my smoothies, my protein drinks. Avocado, we use that for cooking for high heat stuff, and then butter, and then tallow for sure. But just sticking to that right there is a great start for a lot of people.
It's a great start. Another easy switch is your salt. Get your salt and literally just switch out your salt for salt that has color. So go get yourself some good, high quality. I love
do you use salt? Do you use the Himalayan salt from Costco? Is that a decent one?
It's probably fine. I just am really partial to Redmond's. I use Azure a lot, so we order bulk from Azure. They have a bulk drop, but you can get. I get a lot of my stuff there. But you can go on Amazon and order Redmond's cooking salt. It looks like Himalayan salt. But salt should have a color, and salt is not bad for you. Mm-hmm. Iodized synthetic garbage salt is bad for you. I do use that to cure some things in my canning world, but for our table cooking, every meal I have, I like Baja Gold for cooking. It's a beautiful, really clean salt, but I've been doing this a long time. But if you literally today take all your crappy white salt out of your house, it's bad for you. It doesn't have the good benefits. It's actually making you hungrier and making you crave worse food. Go get yourself some good minerally dense salt and start using that. And just doing that, it's super easy. The food, the oils, great point. I do like coconut oil for, so now that we're not really buying a lot of snacks, my kids are pretty sad about that. But if you make popcorn on your stove with coconut oil, like your granny made it, like shake it in a pot with coconut oil, spread it on a pan and put some of that salt over it. It tastes better than the movie theater. And I can't keep it in the house. They eat it so quick. And it is dirt cheap to make. It takes 30 seconds. So it's just stop with microwaving stuff. Don't do any of that mess. I mean it. And just get back to the basics of what a lot of us thankfully did see, you know, with our grandparents and stuff like that. And
before you know it, you're milling flour and you're doing all
yeah,
this.
that's the thing. I tell my patients, I'm like, the slope of this rabbit hole is very slippery. So if you want to come down here, I mean, it's cool. But like I said, you'll be doing like homemade pasta lessons with your friends, and you'll start to collect your weird group of friends too. But I'm pretty sure this audience is probably already that way. But I try to think beyond like, okay, I'm not the best gardener. I'm not. I try really hard. Gardening is hard. It is. It's some people it comes very natural to them. It's just we have a lot of weeds and a lot of bugs and things like that. And I don't use any pesticides and stuff. So that can be very hard. So I like off-season growing. So right now is a great time where we live to start, you know, direct sowing some things. So I have a ton of really beautiful greens coming out, you know, late February and stuff like that. But you know, so gardening can be one of those ones where people are like, I want to garden. And then you try, and it can be very deflating because it's hard. It's hard to get real good at that. But what I am going to start doing is microgreens. I'm going to put some in my house and my kids are going to do it. It's going to be a homeschooling lesson. And you get a lot of nutrition just by putting that in your smoothies or putting some in your, you know, just over your salad or on a sprout sandwich or something like that. So just something like that. Just don't bite off more than you can chew. Like me, where I have 2 sourdoughs and a SCOBY. But no, I'm just kidding. I mean, it is fun. You start to think about it from the science perspective of it. But the seed oils, that's the first thing, man. Just try to go through your stuff and see, like, okay, does this have one of the inflammatory seed oils in it? That if it's a snack, I did it. Like I said, I would go to Costco. I thought I was doing a great job because it was non-GMO and organic foods, and they're probably better than like Doritos or goldfish crackers or whatever. I would get the Annie's crackers, but when you look at it, one of the first ingredients is, you know, sunflowers or canola oil. And so I'm kind of at that next level, but you can start with really easy stuff. Coconut oil, olive oil. Like you said, I use tallow a lot now too. We've been buying that. Ghee's great, but you don't have to get all crazy like that. Just some avocado oil. I started making my own mayonnaise. Y'all, I thought that forever. I was like, I'm not making mayonnaise. That's ridiculous. I made mayonnaise for the first time this last weekend, and I'm just mad at myself because it is so easy. It's so much cheaper. I was buying the Chosen mayonnaise. That's delicious. It's made with avocado oil.
$7 a jar.
It's $7 a jar.
Yeah.
And I made some this weekend. And I was like, that was so not hard. That's the thing you'll start to realize is you'll get these shortcuts in your mind and you'll just be like, that's just not even that big of a deal. And you don't have to be perfect. That's the beauty of the human body and our endocrine system, especially. I think our endocrine system is affected in a really tough way by genetically modified foods and things like that. So it does get affected really easy. And that includes things like your thyroid, your sex hormones, your pancreas, your adrenals, cortisol, all that stuff is under that endocrine umbrella. And so when you're consuming a lot of, or you're coming into contact with a lot of toxicity in food and water and the things you put on your skin, those kinds of things, when you're doing that, it's going to directly affect the way your hormones work. We talked about that last time. Are you making enough of a certain hormone? And does that hormone actually express the way it's supposed to at the receptor site and things like that? But the good news about the endocrine system that is so beautiful is that it doesn't take a ton of really crazy change to see some really big results. Like I mentioned before, with things like infertility or things like low testosterone or things like just adrenal fatigue, you know, cortisol issues. in my 40s, I've been noticing a lot of weird kind of cortisol stuff. Even when I try to work out, if I get my heart rate up, I start getting this weird kind of fight or flight thing. And so that's been a really beautiful layer of my 40s. You know, so those kinds of things are easily affected and easily changed in a positive direction by just changing some of your cleaners or maybe cutting back on GMOs, shortening the list of your ingredients, go to your farmer's market, find some local people that do certain things. If you go to the Weston A. Price organization, they actually have local chapters. I reached out to our local person via email the other day, and I'm going to try to start going to some of their local meetings because they know people who can get locally grown and sourced beef or chicken or raw milk for you, or, you know, go buy some raw cheeses and raw butter and things like that. So if you look at the paleo diet, I like it. I think it's great because you do get off a lot of that processed stuff, and that's why you feel so much better. So patients will tell me that they're like, you know, I think I have a gluten problem. I don't have migraines anymore because I don't eat gluten. And I'm like, well, I think it's mostly because you've cut back on processed foods and
Right.
you're not, you know, poisoning your brain literally with inflammatory
Yeah,
stuff.
you know, I think we've basically have saturated our body's ability to the point where literally some of these, just like you said, we start pulling back just a little bit here and there, and our body's like can breathe. Like, oh my God, okay, we can dump some of these toxins. We can actually work a little bit. Like we've just
our pathways, our clearance pathway, our detox pathways are like opened up, our lymph system, our liver detox. If you just, I was listening to something today, your liver changes itself. If you have a completely new liver in 7 years, if you're feeding your liver a bunch of nonsense for 7 years, how good of a filter is your liver going to be? Our bodies are constantly reaping it. You know, it's such a beautiful thing that the way it's been designed. So that's the encouraging part is you can start making changes today and you're going to see differences very shortly. I mean, it's not like I got to lose 50 pounds before I can see any difference. That's not true. You can start today. I literally see differences just in doing it for 2 weeks of not eating out as much. Like we just say, okay, you know what? We're going to really commit to this. So on the weekends I go online or I'll get some books or I have my friends share some recipes that are their favorites and we buy the ingredients on the weekend because if I don't do that and I have a little dry erase board on my fridge and it's got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I write at least 3 meals on there that are real meals and I go buy the ingredients on the weekend. And so by the time you're exhausted on Wednesday, you're like, well, we already spent the money and the ingredients are at the house and we're going to make this food. And when I erase that meal after we eat it, you feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it's work, you know, it just is what it is. That it's something that you do have to invest in.
There's simple changes too. Like if you can buy a half or whole cow and split it with a friend, which we've done. And not only does it work out to be way cheaper per pound, but the meat tastes so much better. And it's a single source animal. You're not getting all this ground beef. It's a mix of, you know,
and the color alone.
Yeah.
That you can
just a simple change is like going out.
I cannot go back. I cannot go back.
Never.
And once you have friends that kill deer, we do venison. I mean, I cannot go back. It's so delicious. And that's so with the ancestral diet, they ate hoof to tail, right? And so that's the hard part with the organ meats. But organ meats are some of the most nutritious. If you look at any predatory animal, if you look at animals in the wild, they eat the organs. There's a reason. It's got the most nutrition. It's the most nutritionally dense. So if you can get grass-fed cow with the liver and get the liver peppered into your ground beef, you're going to get so much benefit from that. It does taste weird, and we don't grow up eating that stuff, you know. So I do struggle with that. So I do recommend Ancestral supplements. They do the whole cow encapsulated, but I do take encapsulated beef liver. And people look at me crazy when I say that for the first time. But if you've been in the integrative community, they're like, oh yeah, that's great. I use it as my prenatal. I'm like, yeah, there's a reason, because all the ancestral cultures did that. And they had no chronic illness. These people live to be 100 years old. And and that was stuff that Weston A. Price came up with in the 30s. I mean, this is not new information. It's just hoof to tail, lots of organ meat, fermentation. Shellfish was always a big thing. They said even your salt. they even say that one of the reasons why the Native American cultures got so sick was when they cut out salt trade. When America got became a country, they weren't able to do their salt trade. Salt is so important. It's not bad for you. That is the hardest sell for my mom's generation. I mean, she's like, fat free and salt is bad, and lard is bad. And I'm like, Mom, it's like the complete opposite of everything you've been taught. And it's super, super hard. And so, just starting with something small, I get her to do beef tallow and, just things like that. We split a cow this year. That was a huge deal. We do our own chickens in South Carolina. You can do that. So, I can't go back to eating the other. And so when we do a chicken processing day, usually people would throw away the carcasses. I'm like, no, put that in the freezer. I'm gonna make bone broth, which is what I did this weekend. And just the look of those quarts of bone broth in my fridge is just a beautiful thing. It makes you just feel good. That's my way of, it's what I do to provide for our family. It's what I do to prepare our family for sustainability. My husband likes the firearms and all that, and I do too. But that is the part that I feel like I give back to my home, and it is the way that I nourish and care for my family. And it's just a bigger calling. It's just something really special. It's very sacred for me. Knowing that they're nourished.
And for the people out there that, we're talking about, hey, start off small. And I think that's really the key to sustaining and getting better at this type of stuff, because what we see too many, and we've all done this, whether we're talking about a diet or anything else, we go out there and we throw all the food away and we go in there and we try to go full tilt
all in.
And that lasts about 1 week or 3 days.
Right.
3 days.
Yeah.
So, starting off small, hey, you know what? I know at some point, Summer and I committed, look, we're only going to cook with either avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, or coconut oil, and that's it, or butter or tallow.
And be careful with your olive oil too. They're even putting canola oil and cutting your olive oil. So just be really mindful of that.
And there's even some that are labeled organic that are worse than the non-organic because of there's one at Costco. I always get the green one because the organic one is a mixture of different olive oils from different sources, and the green one that's not labeled organic, but it's a single source olive oil straight out of Italy.
It's so important. I wrote that down, that even sometimes this organic label is just the government's way of controlling folks. So I've had some small farming friends that are like, we don't want that. We do organic practices here, but we don't want organic certification, because if we do that, we can't work with some of our farms down the road where we get our stuff from. And so it's a way of control for some of these farmers. So go talk to some of the farmers in your community. Get to know your local folks. That I just feel like this is a way that we create community. It's a way that we create sustainability, because if we have a big food system that they can turn off at any point, anytime they want to, that is very frightening to me. I don't like that. I don't like feeling like I'm at the mercy of a big system, right? I want to know where I can go and grow my own, or go and get my own stuff. And that is that's something that I feel like is very important. Just, as a smart person, just knowing that you can do it yourself. Is it nice to be able to go buy some pasta in a box? Sure. But if I learn how to do it myself, then I don't have to rely on something that could go away. And I think some of the big chain food, it's really frightening. That's the other part. And I'm bad about this too. But back in the day, we didn't have stuff all year round. There were seasons for food. The fact that you can get summer produce in the middle of the winter is just crazy. It's not normal. I mean, I'm definitely spoiled by it. I love being able to do that. But the fact that they've had to truck that food in is just really silly. So we have to be really mindful of that. There may be a time where that's not the case anymore. And what are you going to do about that? Are you going to grow some stuff? What are you going to, So, I think about things like that. I don't know. I think it's smart to do that.
Yeah. One of the, I don't know how this came up several weeks ago. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I'd known this, and I threw this out there, and I was like, is that true actually? But the average apple in the grocery store is over a year old. So take that for what it is. What I want to do real quick is
What?
we're getting
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's gross.
We live
Yeah.
in
Look
the
it up.
apple capital of like
The
the
average
Eastern.
apple in the
They put 'em
grocery
in,
store is
they keep
over a
them
year
in
old.
cold storage for like
Oh.
a year.
I knew that, but I
Yeah.
didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So real quick, what I want to do before we get into any other topics, we got a bunch of
No
questions
wonder
on
they
some
rock
of
so
the
quick.
topics that we've already had. So I'm just going to go through these real fast and furious, and then as
Okay.
we can continue on these same topics. I just don't want to miss them too far down the road. This came up a couple times. Crystal, what can you tell us about MSG?
It's a complete poison. I don't understand why it's still legal in our food system. It is a
It is what?
neurotoxin. When I eat MSG within 5 minutes, I feel like I've been literally poisoned. I've been with if you can cut out MSG immediately, that is definitely back, 7 years ago. That was one of the first things we did. I went through my cabinet and it's in your taco seasoning packets. It's in your, if you can literally throw it away and destroy it, it is an absolute neurotoxin.
And
It's
it
awful.
won't say MSG on the label. It'll say monosodium
Glutamate. It
Mhm.
is ridiculous that we still have it in our food system. I have blurred vision and like brain fog. That's how bad it is, and I can tell within 5 minutes of eating it.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about dyes lately. Thankfully, we have Robert F. Kennedy coming on. This is one of the things he's talked about: seed oils. He's talked about dyes in our food. He's talked about a lot of things. Team 55MX is asking, what, if anything, have you learned about the dyes they put in many foods, like red number 9 and all this other stuff?
Again, neuroinflammatory. Anybody with children that have any type of neuroinflammatory conditions, including ADD, ADHD, nervous tics, whatever, autism, that is all neuroinflammatory. It is a direct cause of that, period. End of story. Again, I don't understand why it's still, I do. It's monetary rather, but it's, you don't need them. They're absolutely awful for you. If you can, like pickles, for example, I love pickles, but why do they have yellow number 5 in pickles? So go find the ones that don't have it.
It's banned in Europe. Am I correct? All those are banned in
It's
every other
bananas, but we tolerate it here because of big environmental protection agencies, and they get to do what they want. It's just it's nonsense. You don't need them; they're really bad for you.
David Hill said the soil in this country is contaminated with Roundup. That is absolutely true. The other thing that we've done is doing monocrops. Like our soil is absolutely worthless. There's some folks on. If you do some research and some Googling on that, you'll figure out that the soil that we have has like no nutrients in it. And that's why we're filling it full of chemicals and we're filling it full of artificial fertilizers that don't actually provide nutrients to the food. They just make the food grow.
And if you look at Joel Salatin and his work, like a lot of what he does is talking about how to like get the soil back the way, and it takes forever to get that soil back to a place where you're even getting any nutrients out of it. This is why it is extremely important for people to have a good terrain, because you're going to come into contact with toxin. So if you look at your terrain, like how good is your gut biome? Like those kinds of things matter, because your detox pathways really, your ability to get that stuff out of your body. Structured water is something I'm going to research because I've been listening to that a lot lately. That the more structured
water, or
what's like the water in your body. So, I watched this thing today. So EMF, right? So all the EMF stuff, the toxicity from that, they say that people who don't have enough structured water in their body, which I've got to research more of that. I'm going to, and I'll come back to y'all on that.
Hold on. Go back to EMF. I don't know what EMF is.
Like
magnetic field.
Like 5G. Yeah.
So
you do. You just it wasn't clicking for you.
That's right. Yeah. 5G. Like so there's.
I was like, is that as delicious as MSG?
Here's some EMF.
It's as bad for you as, but so the 5G toxicity and stuff like that. They say that people that are vegetarians are more at risk for that because of the structured water thing in the body. It's crazy. You start listening to some of these podcasts and it'll blow your mind. You're like, what? So the structured water thing is so important. But just knowing what your body, that was another thing that Weston A. Price found back in the 30s. Is most of these cultures with the ancestral diet, they did not have vegetarians. They're just, you have to eat meat. You have to eat hoof to tail, organ meat. It's important. I'm not saying that plants are not important. I love plants. I'm really big on that. but you need meat, and the oxalates from plants can cause a lot of problems, kidney
Yeah, I've
stones
heard
being
that
one of
too.
them. So, and you can have a, toxicity from oxalates. So you've got to be really mindful of that. I think some of the stuff we've been sold is completely opposite of
Beef,
the ancestral diet.
beef is a superfood. It really is. There's so
Oh,
many minerals, nutrients. If you're buying good beef, it's
right.
just one of the best things. And like you said, once you start adding organ meat and things like that, I did the carnivore diet for January last year, I think it was. Again, I loved it. It's really good. I do think I responded better to the
Paleo.
paleo diet.
I
But
think that the thing about those diets is you have to be mindful that they're pretty restrictive for most of the general population is going to just have a hard time. And then you
Yes.
start hearing craziness like bacon wrapped butter. I mean, and they're like, I don't eat this, but I can eat. It gets a little weird
yeah,
in the community at large because I hear the stories from patients and I'm like, okay, it's all about balance. We got to have something that's sustainable that you can do long term. That's the part too, like you said.
right.
And I mean, I can see if you want to do a detox thing. I'm a big fan of fasting. I could talk for an hour
Yeah,
about fasting.
I wrote that
Yeah,
down
so,
about
yeah.
fasting. For a long time there, I was getting in a good habit of fasting almost one day per week, and then
So good for you.
did a couple 72-hour ones, and I
Yeah.
felt amazing.
I'd like to
Amazing.
discuss that at some point. It doesn't have to be this podcast, but I have heard mixed things on fasting for women and how it can specifically affect a woman's hormones. So
It can
Well,
change her. It's
we'll
with
make it.
adrenal fatigue, but you
Okay.
just have to do it the right way. Fasting
Okay.
for him is not going to be like fasting for you. And so
Yeah.
it's just, you just tailor it based on what's
Okay.
best for your cortisol response. But the last question was glyphosate stores in the fat. I think they mean like for our fat, but even if you're eating
animal
crummy
fat.
meat, this industrialized meat, they're all fed GMO corn. I mean, cows don't eat corn. When is the last time you rode by a field of cows? I mean, there's a lot of them here where they're eating corn. They eat grass. And this idea, so now they're making a vaccine that's going to keep the cows from farting. Cows
What
have
fun
to
is
do
that?
that. They have to do that. They are like a bubbly sourdough starter. That's what they do. They ferment.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
They ferment all the grass they eat.
It's just against all logic, all life, really, when you think about that. Cows are the planet. Like how it's just sad. It's sad to me that people actually fall for this mess. But anyway,
People are dumb.
I digress. But yeah, glyphosate, I can imagine it is stored in fat. It's sad. Canola oil, yes. So if you look at the history of seed oils, it is a dark and twisted history, just like bleaching flour, just like corn syrup and the whole sugar thing. And their stories are so similar. That's how you start to realize, okay, this is a planned narrative. That's what I mean by that. When
They
you
have a
hear the
playbook.
history of it.
They have a playbook and they reuse it.
It's rinse and repeat. And it's making tons of money.
Jason, and this goes for a lot of people. Like that's one of the things I was saying is like you got to find something that works for you, right? Don't force yourself to do something that you hate.
This goes back to being sustainable.
Whether it's doing a carnivore diet, finding the paleo diet, pulling out little things at a time, just small reductions.
And seasoning too. I think we just feel like you've got to be some professional chef. You don't. And your palate will change. That is a thing. We actually can change our palate. And so the more that you nourish your body, it may be that you start with some good grass-fed meat. Maybe start doing some good organ meat and such like that. Maybe some, like I'm not saying you have to eat liver, okay, because I don't like it either, but desiccated beef liver capsules, things like that. When you start giving your body back the nourishment that it needs, your palate will change and you'll start to realize, wow, I really do kind of like that more than I thought I did.
And then when you eat the bad stuff as a treat, like this has happened to me when we've been super clean in our eating, you can taste the chemicals in it.
Yes.
The palate has changed.
And fasting, I have found, makes me crave, it's bizarre. When I get off sugar, and that might be what it is too. When you get off sugar and bad salt, you will crave the natural sugar and the natural salt in fruits and vegetables. Yes. I just believe it's totally a thing. And I've seen it happen in my children. I've seen it happen in myself. And So yeah, that's we can talk a little bit about fasting too, but you'll start to notice that your body knows what it needs. It'll start to change.
Gary uses fat from liposuction clinics for soap and soups.
Wow.
Soups.
That's only my fat though.
Good to know.
Yeah, we talked about that. Definitely use all parts of the animal. Keep that fat, all that good stuff.
Hey, instead of
Love
beef
it.
fat, can I cook down my bacon and then use my bacon fat to cook my eggs in the next day?
Sure.
It's okay as long as you are eating. If you're okay, so cured meat.
Right?
That's one of the beautiful things about ancestral diet is people get kind of daunted by the idea of cooking it all at home and doing it all at home. But there are some things on the ancestral diet that are really fun, like good cheeses. Like I'm talking raw milk cheese. That's the hard part, is finding raw cheese. But that's what I mean. If you join some of these local places, you can find farms that do that. But if you're eating cured meats, I love like a charcuterie tray. We do that for like dinner. Like I'll just make a big tasting tray of really high quality stuff. If you're getting bacon, just make sure you're getting the nitrite free. So you don't want to have this cured kind of, because that's been associated with cancer. So it's hard to find sometimes, but you can find uncured bacon like that, and it is so good. And
bacon fat.
I love bacon fat, man. We keep it.
Butcher pigs around here.
And if you're getting like an awesome source of pig, which is what we do too, it's good quality. It's all about the quality of what that animal ate. So you're eating what that animal ate.
You're getting that secondary effect off of them.
Yeah. So cooking with coated pans, this is a huge discussion, and I'm just starting to really research and learn more about it. So just get yourself a really good stainless steel pan. I love cast iron. I'm a huge fan of cast iron. It will change the way that your food tastes. It's so good. Even especially for my sourdough, I've just started to, thanks to my sweet friend Summer, she got me on board with sourdough. I really fought it for a long time because I was doing a lot of Sue Becker, like home freshly milled flour, yeast recipes for bread, and I was doing fine. And I was like, I don't need your sourdough. I don't want to hear about it, you guys. I've been doing sourdough forever, and I always kill the starter because I don't have time to feed anything else in my life. And then my friend Summer taught me the easy sourdough method, and now I literally make sourdough every day, every other day, and we eat it like crazy because we cook it in a cast iron Dutch oven, and it is totally amazing. And my husband got it for me for Christmas, and it's the best gift ever.
You use enamel lined cast iron. Is that okay if it's enamel lined, like a lot of Dutch ovens are?
That is not my area. I'll research it, and I'll definitely can always come back to you. So I've got friends that are like, it has to be this version of stainless steel, and it's just expensive, and you don't want any of that Teflon stuff because it's just really bad. It's a forever plastic. And you don't get it, never goes away. Never goes away. And they're finding it in umbilical cords. I mean, babies have it in them. Yeah.
So Teflon is really bad, and some of these other coatings that they're now putting on there can be bad. But the problem with that too is that you're also relegated to using plastic spatulas, and all that's doing is getting your food. I mean, use the same plastic spatula for, I don't know, a couple years, and look at
shorter.
It's a lot shorter, and all that has gotten into the food. And that's one of the things that I've been really researching lately and trying to like getting away from microwaving stuff, definitely getting away from microwaving things in plastic, and just getting rid of plastic altogether. Like we've got to, I think that's one of the big thing is just we got plastics everywhere.
And that you talk about endocrine disruption. So plastic is a big endocrine disruptor. So huge, never microwave in plastic. Put it on a plate. I always tell my kids that. I'm like, don't do it in plastic.
We've warned our boys, like, if you're going to microwave something, it better not be in plastic.
Yeah. Even water bottles, like your water, you cannot drink from water bottles. Don't do it. Don't drink them. We have them, for like a disaster situation. Yeah. But I don't drink out of plastic water because I drink water all day. So, you want good purified water. You don't want to drink out of plastic either because it's been heated to like the process of giving you that water bottle. They've had to heat it in that plastic. So and
there's definitely chemicals that leach out of that plastic, especially once it gets hot. It's bad no matter what, but
Yep.
once you heat that plastic up, now you have a lot more of those chemicals coming out. Aluminum foil.
Yeah, this aluminum thing. I've been reading about this too. So it's like, so here's the deal. We can talk and split a lot of hairs on all this stuff, and I know that it's probably not good, but that's what I would like to leave with folks is just some of us have been doing this a very long time, and we're at a place where we can clean out all the aluminum foil, right? And I do parchment paper unbleached and that kind of thing. So do I feel like wrapping your food in aluminum is bad? Yes, I do. There's some research that's showing that that's definitely causing some issues. Aluminum is one of the biggest metal toxicity problems that we have. I think it's a lot worse because it's being sprayed in our skies, and it's in a lot of our care products and things like that too. But and aluminum is a neurotoxin. So yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said for that. But if you're just getting started out, please don't let things like this get you to a place where you're like, forget it. I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
Because you'll get there. Yeah. So a lot of us, like I said, have been doing this for 7 years, and I am at a place where I'm like, okay, I've cleaned out the MSG. I've got the salt. We've got the good cooking fats and things like that. And now I can think about things like aluminum, because you start to get in groups of people where they're so purist that you're just like, you can't enjoy anything. I mean, you're like, okay, well, never mind. I can't eat that. I can't eat this. And so it starts to get a little bit crazy.
And if you implement those little changes, they become such habit that it's not the same amount of effort eventually. And you can put some of that effort into the next thing.
That's right. And nobody's perfect. We are not going to be 100% not toxed up. Living in America, you're going to get some toxicity. And that's where I just have to pray and ask for God to protect us, because there are some things I just am not going to be able to do. It just is what it is. And that's where we try to really work on our gut biome and our detox pathways and make sure that, we pray about it, and the Lord will have to help us with the rest of it, because I'm doing the best I can. Mama tried, y'all. That's what I have. I have a magnet on my fridge. It's like, Mama tried. I'm trying.
Well, and the other part of this is like, if you're worried about your aluminum foil and you're still eating at McDonald's 3 days a week, and you're eating MSG and you're using all the seed oils and everything else, like, let's not get the cart before the horse, and
aluminum foil maybe like 5th on the list of like things that I totally agree. Yeah. So
I mean,
stop eating out. Stop eating fast food today. Like right now. Don't ever eat it again.
Maybe tomorrow.
I'm sure most of you guys have heard, we feed our dog a raw diet. So it's like raw chicken, raw beef, eggs. So we do canned sardines. But anyway, so I order canned sardines. It's actually sometimes hard to find them in just good olive oil. Just olive oil. I accidentally ordered some, and they came in and it was soybean oil. And I was like, we're not even giving these to the dog.
Like to the dogs. That I would probably give those to the chickens, maybe. But I have a friend who puts sardines in her pantry, her long-term storage pantry, because they last forever and they're really good for you. And like I said, there's a lot to be said in the ancestral diet, again, about shellfish. I'm not a big shellfish person. I don't really, but there is a lot of cultures that, if they lived close to water, they would eat a lot of that kind of thing. And that was really good. Black seed oil, I'm a huge fan. I think it had a lot of the same properties as ivermectin for people who couldn't get ivermectin. So I used it a lot in COVID protocols when people were getting really sick. I was using that back then. But now I actually like black seed oil for metabolic support. So it does have some benefits for things like if you're pre-diabetic or you're worried about, insulin sensitivity problems. I do use black seed oil and berberine. I like those in chromium and berberine and black seed oil I use in combination. The thing about black seed oil is you have to be careful, because even some of the fancy nice ones have canola oil in them. So any of your fish oil, any of your cod liver oil, you will see it. It is just like they're doing with olive oil, where they cut it with a vegetable oil. And I'm super frustrated. Some of the supplements I've used for years and really trusted are still doing it. And I'm like, I'm done. I took it off my shelf, and I will not recommend it to patients anymore, because there is a pro-inflammatory component to seed oil. And I don't want that. So.
Fraser Lordy said omega 369. I thought these were essential fish oils. I have a bottle in my bathroom.
super, super confusing. And I still am not a super big expert on this, but I did research it a good bit. My husband's a registered dietitian, so he knows all the nerdy stuff. He actually gave me all the really nerdy breakdown of paleo versus carnivore versus ancestral. So, all right. I'm not a fan of sixes at all. Because I've done a lot of research, but there are people in the American Heart Association that are going to tell you that they're all still good and that they have benefit for your heart because it lowers LDL. But remember what I said, it oxidates LDL. I don't feel like it's really helping your cardiovascular picture. I'm a bigger fan of cod liver oil because you get a lot of the good fat soluble vitamins. That's another thing that's big on the ancestral diet is fat soluble vitamins A and D and K. Those are the big, like you got to have them, and we don't get them in anything but good fat, like grass-fed butter. So what their claim is with omegas, and the reason they still include the 6, which I'm not super happy about, and I've started to change my mindset on some of my omegas that I used to recommend. But their claim is that if you have enough of the 3 and 9, it balances the 6, and you need the 6 because your body doesn't make it. Remember I said that? I'm not a fan of that. Listen, I think God got it right. If you don't make it, there's probably a reason you don't make it. So I'm not a huge fan of that argument that we don't make it, so we have to eat it. I don't know. It's a little slippery slope. So I'm not saying you necessarily need to throw out your fish oil, but you might want to get a different fish oil. I don't know. I'm a big fan.
Well, what I can tell you is if you look at anyone that does just nutrition specifically and is not tied to any 3-letter agency and is not a heart doctor or something else that only knows what literally they only know what the pharmaceutical companies tell them, so that then they go out there and they make statements and get in with but anyways, the people that do nutrition, and that's all they do, they study nutrition, that they will tell you to stay away from omega-6s for sure. So do some research on that, folks. I
think we're being sold a line of goods, and we're gonna look back and be like, what were we doing? Just like we've done with so many things. I mean, so many things. So
rice bran oil. I've never even
heard of that. Yeah.
I've not either. It sounds like something that may not be in our country. It sounds like something that maybe is a European product. Maybe it's great. I don't know. Rice bran oil.
No, I don't know. I don't know. One of you guys look that up.
There's rice bran oil, bulk rice bran oil at the apothecary.
Definitely bad for you. No, I don't know.
I can buy it on.
I have no idea.
I can buy it on.
I don't know about that one. I can research and get back to you though. That's the thing.
Buy a gallon.
I'm gonna have Chris drink a gallon of it. We'll see how he feels afterward.
I think I might have that one thing where you used to eat those Olean potato chips.
Oh, they're so bad.
I forget the name of the specific name for that, but I think that's what would happen, Gary.
I don't doubt it. The FDA is the biggest racket. They allow big food, approved foods that poison us, and then approve big pharma drugs to provide antidotes.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That's
rice
we
bran oil.
We all got a great view of that with this whole COVID nonsense. I mean,
and hopefully, that should pretty much be the overarching theme of this podcast.
The real pandemic is the toxicity of our country. I mean, it's insane.
They want you
sick. I agree with you, Sean.
So they can give you more drugs, so they can make more money, so that.
And I've been at the mercy of it for my whole career, and I never even realized they sell us first, so we can go out and sell for them. We are their frontline salespeople in our white coat, and it's pretty frustrating. It made me almost leave healthcare when you start to really see what it is.
Just real quick, there's a lot of information on rice bran oil, but it says rice bran oil does contain saturated fat, has a higher amount of omega-6 than omega-3, which may potentially increase. Yeah, promote.
That would put it in the same. It would put it in the same category with me as canola or sunflower or soy.
In their thing here, they have like wheat laying around it. It looks super healthy.
It does look healthy.
Look at that. Look at a little bag of salt with it. Or right? Oh no, it's rice grains.
Yeah,
that's super healthy.
Yeah.
Looks like my hot sauce I put in my.
It's by a heavenly chef.
Like I put in my diesel. It's a diesel.
It's just like when they put the heart healthy thing on the Cheerios, and just don't look at the the genetically modified.
Don't actually read the ingredients though. Just trust our label.
I don't mean to villainize Cheerios, but yeah, I'm not a fan of cereal. I mean,
we heard you loud and clear on Cheerios.
Oh God.
Well, Kellogg has a long history of That's
yeah,
another
of
thing before
nonsense.
we
Just
go
the
way down.
cereal in general, just the grains that are in it that we've been marketed this whole grain. It's not even close to what the
Mm-mm.
beneficial grains are. It's so bad for you to start your day with that.
Anything
It's
in the
horrible.
cereal aisle is
So
not good for you.
My Reese's peanut
Even-
butter puffs aren't good to eat every morning.
At
They are-
Walmart, at our Walmart, they have candy on the cereal aisle, and I'm like, thank goodness they finally just said whatever, we'll put them together. I'm like, because that's exactly what it is.
They,
Put that
they
in there with
took it in the facade. a
But
little
no,
bit.
I mean, I grew up eating it. We had King Vitamin and Lucky Charms, and we somehow got through it. So I'm like I said, I mean, that's the stuff. My mom told me, she said they made us feel like that was good for you.
Well,
Like that's what we did.
Even back then, those cereals weren't made with the same GMO
Right.
modified ingredients that they
really
are.
taken it to a
It's still
toxic level.
Yeah.
Well, and regardless of what cereal I had, I always had to add extra sugar. Like, I had Frosted Flakes, and I added like 4 more tablespoons of sugar. Do
We always got like an off-brand too. My mom would get us like King Vitamin.
Yeah.
Looks
We
like
never had
Southern
Captain Crunch.
Cookie.
It was King Vitamin or some kind of,
Oh yeah, the bag version. Oh, we had that too. Yep.
the
Yeah.
Piggly Wiggly version.
Huh?
What's the best way to lose weight fast but safe? I don't know that they're
That's going to
really.
be a Bowie knife.
So if you're being sold that bill of goods, you're being lied to. I'm sorry, but I've done weight loss counseling for over 10 years in a clinical realm. You know, I wish there was a magic pill and a magic shot and a magic statement that I could make, because if there was, I'd take it. I mean, I would. I'd be dancing on the roof. I mean, I come from a long line of obesity on both sides.
Yep.
It is a constant thing. I have always got to think about it. It's
Me
tough.
too. It
Um,
gets exhausting. I think about it every day and it gets
so
exhausting.
frustrating. Yeah. So fast is rarely safe, and safe is rarely fast. You know what I mean? So a safe weight loss, according to my dietitian husband, again, who's very smart, says 1 to 2 pounds a week is a safe weight loss program. And anybody that's trying to push for more than that, I would question their integrity and and really, he even says that about elimination style diets. He's like, anybody that's cutting out an essential food group is kind of red flag. Just really want to look at clean food and balance and stuff like that. So, I am a fan of weight loss counseling visits. So I do that. We offer that. So, having somebody that you can talk to, because a lot of weight loss is mental, and you've really got to work through some of that, and you need to have a good person. I like a brick and mortar spot, where you're going in and you're getting that kind of accountability part to it. So it's just there's so many facets to weight loss. It's not just what you're eating, and there's so much more to it than that. So I'm a fan of clean food, real food. Get your crock pot out. It is not hard to dump stuff in a crock pot. It's not. And then you've got leftovers for tomorrow. Never go anywhere without some food. So if you work a long job during the day and you're relying on fast food or vending machines or a gas station hot dog, I mean, you're just not going to get food that's good for you. And you have to pack food with you. You have to take it with you, and you have to think about it. And that means maybe on the weekends, get the fresh produce, cut it up, make it attractive, and have it ready to go, so that you're packing your food and taking it with you. Put an ice pack in there, drink lots of water. There is no quick, easy, fast weight loss. I think fasting is great too, but there again, even that, people do craziness and do starvation programs, and I don't agree with it clinically. There just isn't. You're going to gain it back. It's not sustainable.
Personally, I felt like I've had better long-term sustainable results when I focused more about the health aspect than the
Nutrition,
weight
yeah.
aspect. Whether
Yeah.
exactly. Giving your body good things, and then also just some type of movement. It doesn't have to be this huge fancy workout plan. Just move your body in some way.
That's right. I love that. That's great.
Yeah,
There's something to be said for circuit. Yeah, circuit training, getting your heart rate up, rest, heart rate up. There's some benefit to that for your heart muscle. But yeah, there's no fast and safe don't usually go together.
Yeah, I just mean from an aspect of, not saying any one type of exercise is better than the other, but in a way of approaching it from like, I just need to move my body in some way today. If I don't do anything other than just go out and walk for 30 minutes, if that's all I have time for today, then that's better than doing nothing.
Well, and look, and for women too, I know it's always it's still a taboo to some extent, but like weight training, whether you're a man or a woman, that's how you're going to maintain muscle,
Maintain
build
bone
muscle,
density. Yeah, just for women.
and it's going to help you burn more calories throughout the day with that extra muscle mass. And there's no possible way, women out there, that you will turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger if you're out there lifting some weights. You're just going to get some muscle tone.
I truly, and I've said this to people before, I think weight training long term it can be like a fountain of youth. I mean, there's just so many benefits that we've already mentioned. And then even as you get older, I mean, you're less susceptible to falling, your bones are less brittle. It just so many things.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
they've done studies on that people who even start exercising in their 50s and 60s, and that's the only thing they changed. Maybe they weren't very healthy before, but they said, you know what, I'm going to start an exercise program in my 50s or 60s, have better quality of life into their 80s and 90s. And that's like, they weren't that athletic before. So there's been just with exercise, like they could single it out and say that was the thing that caused it. So yeah, I totally.
And that's what I love about weight training too. I am super non-athletic, like not good at any sports, not good at any of that. But weight training, I can do, and I can do it proficiently, and I feel good about it, and it doesn't require all this natural ability.
And Summer goes in there and lifts hard and is outlifting a lot of the dudes. And you know, she doesn't look like a dude. I mean, she did have to start shaving. But no, she joking. But
Jesus.
but
I'm glad I'm leaving.
Oh God.
I will say, like your exercise in your mid 40s does start to change a little, because I used to be one of those like CrossFit, you know, Orange Theory, killing it in my 30s. And then when I hit 41, I did hit this really weird adrenal thing. And so I've had to be mindful and listen to my body a little bit more, where I can't just go and kill it. If I get my heart rate to these weird places like I used to do, exercise started to feel bad. I started having almost like panic attacks after I'd work out. So adrenal fatigue is real, especially for women. That cortisol response from just women go through a lot of stress just from childbirth and all the things. So you don't don't beat yourself up over that. Like your exercise may look different into your 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And we can still get really good benefits from it. Because it's really hard when I was very athletic, and then to hit 41 and now I'm 45, you know, it was really hard. It really hit me very hard. I'm like, why can't I just do what I've always been able to do? So that's the kind of the opposite spectrum of that too. So just make what works for your life and you can do sustainably and move your body. Like, I love that. I think that's great.
Well, luckily, Summer, you have 4 or 6 years before you hit 40. So
yeah, okay.
Right.
Summer's got some time to like plan for that. So
I tell you what,
I'm trying to make up for Gary's comment earlier. I will not repeat.
I also often don't want to sound like I'm making excuses, because I really don't. But once you hit your 40s and a woman, it changes stuff.
It does.
You know, and I also struggle within my own brain. Like, am I just being lazy? Am I not trying hard enough?
Like, beat yourself up, and then you're like, well, forget it. I'm just not going to do it. And that's silly too. So, and I deal with both ends of that, where people are just resigned to the fact, well, it's just menopause, and I'm just going to be like miserable. No, that's ridiculous. So, you know, I get what you're saying. It's hard, but it has been a little tough on me. I've been like, why can't I do what I did when I was 25? But
so men have a little grace for your wives.
It's hard. Arthritis is real too, man. But hopefully this is helpful. I polled my friends, my like healthcare friends, and some of my just really crunchy friends, and all my like homesteader mama friends and stuff. And I just said, hey, if there's one thing I could leave people with, like, what would it be? Like, if you just something realistic that you would tell people to do, to start doing tomorrow, that could make a change. And I put that list together, and I added some things to it so that you guys could have action steps. You know what I mean? So cook at home, eat real food, stop eating fast food as much as you can. I mean, we still get Zaxby's sometimes, I will
Oh, I
admit.
love some backspace.
Mm.
Right?
They got solid barbecue sauce.
That is some serious seed oil. Okay. Um, I just said, shake the hand of the person, shorten your food chain. That's a pollen. I read all his books; are amazing. Like he talks about the industrial food and monoculture and what it's done to our soil and all the things, and you'll be like, wow, what in the world? But that's what he said. It's like shorten the chain of who's preparing your food. If you're not growing it yourself, go find out who is and what are they doing with that, and talk to them about it. Like, how do they do that crop or whatever? Ancestral diet, fermentation. So fermentation can be kefir grains, sourdough, um, kombucha. You can buy it. It's just expensive. So I wanted to start making it myself. It's like
Does,
$4 a bottle.
Apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar.
Apple cider vinegar is awesome.
Yeah, with
Well,
mother.
What about like kimchi? Is that enough fermentation, or would you
Oh
have to
my
eat?
gosh. I just
ton
read
of-
this thing today. Like a tablespoon and a half of sauerkraut. Well, good stuff, not nasty crap, but
Yeah.
good sauerkraut has more probiotics than a whole bottle of probiotic pills.
Well,
I love sauerkraut.
There's a really
Eat
good one at
healthy.
Costco that seems to have good bacteria in
Is
it
that
too.
one of the fresh ones in like the bag?
This
I
is
love
so
this.
good. So yeah, if you like pickles, pickle it. Pickle to your heart's desire. It's really good for you. It's just all good for your gut. It's going to give you back your good yeast and bacteria. It just helps with everything. So fermentation is something I'm really trying to figure out this year because it is a little weird. You're like, this is weird.
Mhm.
Who came up with a SCOBY? That is a very weird thing. It looks very strange. I don't know. The first person to try that was a very brave person.
And-
But you know,
and
so that
isn't fun either. You got to be a little careful.
what is it?
Botulism.
Botulism. I know, like some people get botulism from doing, sauerkraut and things like that. There's obviously you can do it safely. I don't want to fear.
Well,
mongering.
most of your fermented stuff, Gary, you run it through a still and then it comes out good to drink.
That's a different.
I love tinctures,
Hey, no.
y'all. I'm into plant medicine too, so I'm really trying to learn more about that. I've got a friend that does herbal teas, and she's awesome. So I've been getting into that. Like she puts nettle and things into tea, and I drink that every day now, and it's really, really helped with the histamine thing I was having from what I think is spike protein poisoning from long COVID. I really do. I feel like I've been having this weird histamine thing that's related to cortisol. And of course, no mainstream person will talk to me about it. And so I've tried a lot of everything, and it's been super, super helpful. I've just been drinking nettle tea. It's crazy. And she puts ashwagandha in it too, which is awesome.
I was just getting ready to ask you what's the best way to reduce cortisol, because that's definitely something that I have a problem with at night.
It will ruin your sleep. And sleep is so important. Adaptogens are what you use for adrenal fatigue. So it helps your body adapt to stress. So cortisol is adrenal fatigue. So when you think about like a fatigue like that, it's the same idea as like you have like insulin sensitivity problems with your pancreas, right? So the reason we have cortisol issues, if you think about it, is because we are addicted to stress. Okay. So we have our parasympathetic and our sympathetic system, and they should work in synergy, like a yin and yang type thing. But they never do because we live in a society that even our grandparents didn't have to deal with. I mean, where we kind of celebrate stress, we celebrate this whole social media thing, and so we just are constantly slow dripping cortisol. So we get in this weird kind of cortisol state where everything is fight or flight. And so your body can't perceive good stress from bad stress. And so that's where you start to see this, what I mentioned when I said working out would elicit this weird kind of sympathetic thing where my body would perceive it as bad stress. And so I'd start to feel like I was going to have a panic attack after I'd work out. And I used to feel great. That is a version of kind of cortisol issues. So what do you do about it? Deep breathing techniques are actually the cheapest and easiest thing you can do. So box breathing is, I know sounds ridiculous, and I don't do it either, but I'm telling you, it actually decreases your sympathetic response and increases your parasympathetic response when you just sit and you breathe in, hold it for a little bit, and then breathe out. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can do it at a traffic light. There are times during the day that I find myself just doing it because I feel like I need it. It's like your body's way of just letting off a little steam, almost like a pressure cooker. And that's going to increase your parasympathetic response and decrease your sympathetic response, because our sympathetic response is on like, it's way over the top. So fight or flight is great if you're being chased by a bear or you have to slam on brakes because a deer runs out in front of your car. But you know that cortisol wash that you get over, like when you slam on brakes and you feel like, oh, that's a cortisol wash. And so what starts to happen is we just start constantly in that fight or flight, and everything's not a bear, right? But your body doesn't know the difference. That's when you're in adrenal fatigue. So deep breathing is really good for that. And then adaptogens. Adaptogens are things like ashwagandha. That's the one most people know about. I like adaptogens, and I definitely think they're great. It's just that your body gets used to them after about 3 months. And so every 3 months or so, I would recommend changing your adaptogen. If you go to a really good health food store and you say, I need an adaptogen, they'll be able to help you with that. Reishi mushrooms, there's a million of them. If you Google adaptogens, you'll find tons of options.
Like
So
we take a mushroom complex right now, but
Yeah, it's
great.
reishi and
lion's mane, all the.
If you feel like it stops working though, just switch it up. Keep it for later. You go back to it, but your body gets used to it and it stops working. That's what happens after a couple of months on one adaptogen. So adaptogens are great. I take them. I believe in that. It's been really helpful. So yeah, but adrenal fatigue is what's causing that weird cortisol response, and that is very real, and people struggle with that as they get older. I think our bodies just compensate for a long time. When I was in my 20s, I could go and push, and now it's like my body's like, okay, like I can't keep running from a bear all day, and it's hard for me to distinguish between good and bad stress right now. It's really hard. So
yeah.
Real quick, Chris, we touched on it last show, and I think it's worth touching on again. And you mentioned it earlier, but just so people know, because I think a lot of people are fleeced on this too, and this is something that we've had cut out of our life for probably 15 years or more now, and I think it matters. But fluoride, talk a little bit about what fluoride actually is, and whether or not you think it has any benefit to oral health whatsoever.
I do not think it has any benefit to oral health. I think it's one of those things that we got sold because they couldn't sell it any other way. Sounds like mRNA. And we got sold it, and it's just part of what we do. And people just assume it's fine. I don't think we're supposed to be consuming it. It is a neurotoxin. People say very similar things about fluoride, like I just read to you about seed oils. It's like, well, it's been proven that the amount is not, it's a neurotoxin. Yeah, we'll give you that. But the amount's not detrimental to little children. I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that it's okay for neurotoxins in small, so we need to spread the poison on the little children's teeth in small amounts, and that's okay. It's not going to hurt them. It's nonsense. When you say it out loud, it just is, it's ridiculous. So I don't do fluoride. I don't really like it. We don't do it at the dentist anymore. We just tell them we don't want it. I don't want it.
We don't either.
Yep. If you find a dentist that's respectful of you, they're fine with it. Like the minute we went into a new dentist when we moved here, even before we had Noah, but from the very first dentist visit with Jackson, our oldest that's here at the house, like no fluoride treatments. And at first there's kind of like are you sure? And I'm like, I'm sure, like absolutely no fluoride treatments. And now they never even ask. It's in the chart. It's never an issue. So every visit we go, they know there's no fluoride.
Now, it might be different. So I was born and raised here in West Virginia, but in elementary school, the fluoride tray came to the classroom once a month, or maybe once every 6 months.
We went to a very similar school, because I remember that. Yeah.
It was one. It was on a lunch tray, and it was Dixie cups with whatever it was, an ounce per kid, and everybody grabbed it. You took it and spit it back in the cup.
So it wasn't even like a teeth soak. It was you just ingested it.
No, you spit it back in the cup.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but it was the paper Dixie cup, and they brought it in.
Like they passed out the Kool-Aid to the children. I mean, think about that. I cannot fathom a time where I would not lose my ever-loving mind if that happened to my child. And now we look back and think about it, and I'm like, what? Yeah. I just cannot. I mean, they have flu shot clinics in the public schools here. I just, it's just madness to me. So it's the same thing as, I don't do it at the dentist. And I like hydroxyapatite toothpaste. I think it actually remineralizes your teeth. which is a thing. Take a good mineral supplement. A good mineral mouthwash is great to remineralize your tooth. It does. That actually happens. Weston A. Price, I keep coming back to it, but that was his big thing, is he said the sign of an unhealthy population are people that their teeth don't fit in their mouth anymore. We never had a spacing of the teeth problem. That's actually a sign of problems, chronic disease. And the cavities problem is a sign of chronic disease. And it's a mineral problem. It's a nutrition problem. That's what I mean when I say we're super overfed, but we are so malnourished. So that's a real sign of overall health is, cavities and things of that nature. So I like hydroxyapatite toothpaste. We don't have a lot of biologic dentistry here. It's really frustrating. I'm dealing with some problems with some mainstream dental stuff that happened to my child that I'm having to work through right now with one of my friends who's trying to get more in the biologic dentistry realm. So I'm grateful for her because she actually hears me out about metal in the mouth. I think that's weird. I don't think it's good.
I had all my metal fillings removed.
Yeah, we had all the metal fillings removed. I mean, the fact that we used to put lead and other metals in our mouth is absolutely insane. And folks, I'm just telling you right now, and this is something that somebody said to me, again, it was probably almost 20 years at this point, about fluoride, how it was a neurotoxin. I'm like, there's no way. And I started researching it, and I'm telling you, fluoride is one of the most toxic chemicals on the face of the planet. It is so toxic that it is illegal to put into a landfill. That's how toxic it is. And it's a byproduct of many different industries. And they ended up putting it in our water, selling it in our toothpaste. I really believe part of that was a way to get rid of it. But
they were losing money on it. Yeah. Just like mRNA technology was the same thing. Yeah, they lost money on mRNA. So they said, let's just put it in these shots and they'll go for it.
Yep.
It's mad.
I remember he was still in the Army. We were over at some of the Army people's house, like a buddy of his. Yeah.
No.
And Gary brought up the fluoride point in regards to toothpaste and things like that. And one of their wives got so
she was she was a dental hygienist.
Yeah, she was in the medical field in some regards. She got so angry at him, told him he was spreading all this, that wasn't called misinformation, but he was lying to people and it was going to cause people to, have all these issues. And it was like a heated discussion. He's like, nope, it's neurotoxin. You can use it if you want, but I'm not, do
the research.
Rinse and repeat with everything else. With vaccines, it's the same thing. I mean, I used to be a big old like, oh my gosh, you're crazy. You don't do vaccines. You're nuts. You guys are so crazy. And now I'm just 180 degrees the opposite because I've actually learned the reality of what's in them. I mean, just go read the ingredients. I mean, it's just silly that you can put a small amount. It'll be okay. It's the same principle with fluoride. Right. So we use hydroxyapatite toothpaste, not the nano. I like the more natural hydroxyapatite. So I think we use like Happy Tooth, and there's a few brands out there where you're using the actual natural version of the hydroxyapatite, but it remineralizes your teeth. That's what we do. And, we still go to the dentist. It's just we don't do fluoride there either.
Yeah. Same with us. We had all our metal fillings removed, and we haven't done fluoride treatments in many years. I don't know if our kids have ever had a fluoride treatment. And they never get cavities, folks.
So long and the short of hearing all this, I should stop drinking Monster energy drinks.
No, you should double.
Oh my gosh!
What you want to do?
The full strength green ones.
What you want to do is you want to take some toothpaste, squeeze it in there, squeeze the. Shake it up. And
get some mercury, aluminum.
You rub it on my skin and then just start chugging a Monster.
Pour it in plastic. Yeah. Heat it up.
That's right.
It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
I don't drink Monster, just to let you know. I used to a lot.
I used to drink freaking energy drinks all the time.
Yeah.
Fraser Lordy brought up that he quit drinking November 12th, 2016. Again, definitely helps your liver out, helps with a lot of different things out there.
Brain function and brain health too.
Brain function.
Makes sense, Summer.
That's what happened to you, Chris.
Let me see.
So 7 years you've regenerated your liver. So 16.
There you go. Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Got a totally new liver, Fraser.
Yeah.
So I still have hope.
That's another thing that was absolutely true. Fluoride is an element, and it can't be destroyed. It stays in your system. It does build up over time. Oh, there's all these, like, do some research on fluoride, folks. It is absolutely, it's one of the, next to the food pyramid, it's one of the craziest things that has ever been put upon. No, seriously.
I know where you're going, but I was like, I can't believe you're comparing it to that. But okay.
I really believe that the food pyramid is one of the greatest, the worst things that has ever been done to the American people. That's why it has killed millions of people.
Yes.
Upon millions of people. It's caused disease. You name it. It's one of the craziest.
They're still doing it. I mean, they're still promoting a version of it. It's Rick, my husband, was talking about the my plate thing.
All they did was change the design of it, but it's still like
they put a plate and they put the milk over there in a little cup or something. I mean, I'm like, I don't even look at that stuff. I don't even know. I just am like, it's so ridiculous.
Bread and pasta.
The government thinks that the main food groups are carbs, vaccines,
and fluoride.
And you'll live a long time.
You need these days. You'll be fine.
Your immune system was designed wrong, you know? You just,
100%. We got to squirt this stuff in there.
It's crazy.
Well, we only covered about half of what I got on my list here, but I think we covered a lot. I'm just going through, making sure we didn't miss.
I know, I'm trying to go through too. I had a bunch of notes.
Well, hopefully we've given people on here, if they haven't already started, some small steps and some simple things that they can do, even with the oils or things like that.
Just don't interest, but some clean recipes. I mean, I get old cookbooks. No, I just like to get cookbooks like from the library. And I hate the library. They've got a bunch of weird stuff there now, but I just go get cookbooks and make copies of recipes like old school. And it's just, I don't know. It doesn't have to be complicated. Don't overcomplicate it. You don't need to be a chef.
Start with small steps.
Yeah, just real food. Cut some things up. Put them in a crock pot. I mean, Taco Tuesday. We put like whole chicken in a crock pot with like a little bit of seasoning, and you can make your own flour tortillas, or you don't have to. But the Siete brand, they make no seed oil. A lot of their stuff is avocado. So
I love their almond flour. Is it Siete?
Yeah,
the almond flour tortillas. They're super good.
They do a good job.
Those
well,
are the
chips bought by Frito-Lay or something, so they'll probably switch it. But I don't get compensated by any of these people. I'm not your doctor. I don't have a chart on you, so I'm not trying to give you medical advice. But just from
by the way, you were talking about snacks at Costco that were clean. The Jackson's chips, they're just sweet potatoes, avocado, and oil and salt. But they taste super good. We love the Jackson's chips.
Yum. I love my like air fryer, but I have one of those old ones that weighs like 300 pounds. So it's like, we're going to air fry today. It's crazy. So,
work out to get
easy on yourself, even with the chicken stock, like I bought that big, I mean, it's like a crock pot that's like this big.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Super easy, y'all. I just put 3 carcasses in there that you would have normally thrown to the dogs or whatever, or thrown out. And I put some onions and carrots. You put whatever you want, season it how you want it, and just turn it on and forget about it. Like all day Sunday. And Sunday night we had a ton of chicken broth, and we just put it in the fridge, in our outdoor fridge, because we don't use that fridge a lot, so it won't get opened a whole bunch. So it'll stay fresher. And I put it in glass jars. Things in glass jars are going to stay a lot fresher. Raw milk is one of those things. If you even buy, like, we have local raw milk, and raw milk, y'all. So raw milk and pasteurized milk have the same amount of calcium. But when you pasteurize milk, you actually kill the enzymes that allow you to absorb all the good nutrition. So the idea that raw milk is milk. That pasteurized stuff is something weird. So just think about the weirdness that we've done to foods. And if something is sitting on a shelf, like cheese that sits on a shelf and doesn't go bad, food should go bad. Like good food goes bad. That's not cheese. That's not real. That's, but I mean, I grew up with Velveeta and all the things, and I thought that was real for a very long time. And but like I said, if I can do it, I mean, I grew up in the country. We, we still eat a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm not 100%. We still have cupcakes and things like that. I mean, so don't feel like it's got to be some legalistic thing where you're never going to have any fun anymore. Butter is good for you. Be excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
I still splurge on like a half a gallon of ice cream from time to time. I'm not gonna lie. Ice cream is my weakness in life.
When he says a half gallon, he's not joking.
I'm
It's
not
half
joking.
a gallon a night.
Once that seal gets cracked, it's
It's
not
gone.
going back. It's just
I love
nom.
I mean, there are things that, it is what it is, but we try our best, and mama tried. We really do try, and that kind of thing.
Charissa, I just want to tell you that I've already ordered a couple things on Amazon that you've told me about. Just
love it.
the baby steps, and I've been
Yeah.
I've been talking to the wife. It's the little baby steps. Like we've been using, extra virgin olive oil. I was like, hey, let's start looking at avocado oil. We're never buying canola oil again. These little things that you can do that's not,
Mm-hmm.
like
not life-changing.
monetarily burdening either.
No.
You know what I
Right.
mean? These little
And you don't
steps-
feel like you're eliminating things that you really enjoy. It's like
No.
I bought a bag of potato chips yesterday, but they were avocado potato chips, and they had sea salt, potatoes that were organic, and like avocado oil. And
Right.
I didn't eat the whole bag. I did have a bunch. They were delicious, but I didn't feel like that horrible, like,
Oh,
And
they
I just-
that ball in your stomach.
The thing is you
Yeah,
don't
you
want
feel
to
bad.
jump into a cult. All right, you want to ease into it. All right, that's what.
Right.
That's up the road here,
Put
Gary.
them passing the cups of Kool-Aid at your school.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is really crazy. I don't think we had the fluoride cups at school. That is another level
We
right
had
there.
it come on a lunch
See,
tray, and
I
can
feel
vouch for
I
people.
remember that in going to school in Michigan as well. Little cups of fluoride that you
Yeah.
swished around. I
We
do
still do
remember.
dental services at the schools here.
Yeah,
Like,
my mom did it.
Yeah,
It's
they still-
actually state
wow.
run. They come
still-
do free cleanings for
Yeah. and probably fluoride
the
treatments
pop-
too.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they do that, but they might. But it's
Yeah.
like
Probably
for
do.
the kids that get, I would say free lunches. You know what I mean? They would come. My mom did it for, I don't know, 10
Are you making
years.
fun of poor kids?
I didn't. I said free lunches.
There was one point where
So-
they were running a vaccine clinic at
Jesus.
one of our son's school. I want to say it was like maybe the year or two after COVID.
Yeah,
And I told my son on the way to school, I said, I don't care what happens. They shouldn't approach you about it. But if anybody
Yeah.
approaches you to take a shot, you immediately ask to call me or your father. You refuse and you ask to call
Did they
home.
really do that?
Yes.
That's the thing. Here's the deal.
Or middle.
Really?
Here's the deal. Do what you want. I mean, listen, we've researched it. It's not a fit for our family. But if you've researched it and you feel cool about vaccines, that whatever. Listen, no hard feelings. I mean, if you have questions, I can try to answer them and stuff like that. I can tell you our story. It's a tough story. But it's not a fit for us. But here's the deal. If you decide to do that with your child, please do it in a doctor's office with somebody who has a chart on your child, who knows your child's history, who knows if your child has an allergy, not some random person by the cold cuts at Publix or in a school gymnasium with a traveling nurse who does not, no offense. I mean, they're doing their job and I'm sure they're great nurses, but they pack up and leave. That child may have a life-threatening anaphylactic reaction to polyethylene glycol, which is basically antifreeze, which is in your vaccines. It's in there.
Mhm.
They may have a life-threatening anaphylactic reaction 30 minutes later, and that person knows nothing about that child. They don't have a chart on that child. They don't know what that person had. They don't know the history. So if you do decide to do that, I mean, I'm not telling you to, because I don't, but if you do, just please do it in an office setting where you know that people are going to be there to help if something happens, because reactions happen. The idea that they don't is just madness.
And
They
my
do.
thought more so about that was them doing it at the school away from the parents.
Oh,
through a
it's
government
wrong
funded
on
program.
so many levels, and it is not going to stop there. Their goal is to just have it where parents don't have consent or knowledge of it, and that's what was my biggest fear when my kids were still in school, which they're not now, but is that was going to happen, that they were going to come home with some Band-Aid, and I would be like, what, when? And so just be mindful of that. That is happening. That does happen. So just be very mindful of that.
And if it's happening,
Yeah, I remember when we're all lined up to get shots in nursing school. We had to line up and get our hepatitis series. It was craziness. I look back, and if I just had known then, and I feel like we've got long-term issues from that. It's really sad. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, we don't have to agree on everything, but just be mindful of things that are happening, especially with your children. I think there's a direct attack on kids, and we have to be very careful and advocate for our kids. And yeah, food is definitely part of that. I mean, if you go to like our local Walmart, that's one of the saddest things to me is I can tell the kids that are just
malnourished but
processed
overweight.
They're
Yep.
just all day long, the school lunches, the fast food, and it's just a lifetime of illness, which is great for pharmaceuticals. It's great for everybody but that person and their family, and the misery that comes from that. Like you said, the food pyramid has caused so much misery and sickness and sadness. And that's the part that hits me the hardest, is because as the clinician who actually cares, I'm the one sitting in there with that family member or that person or my family that's going through hell because they thought they were doing the right thing. It's really frustrating. So if we can help people through that, I have a real compassion for that. And I don't want you to feel like you're doing it wrong. I mean, I know it seems like a lot when you're like, okay, my pans are wrong, my aluminum foil's wrong. So just know, just do one good thing. Like just start one new thing maybe for this week. If it's soda, stop the soda. Like if you have an addiction to soda, it is a real thing. You are being duped. Soda has stuff in it. They've admitted it that makes you addicted to it. It's very different than like fresh brewed teas and coffees. Even coffee, I think, is adulterated now. It's got a lot of mold issues. There's a lot of toxicity there too. So you can go down all these rabbit trails. But if you're a person that drinks 3 diet sodas a day, it's not good for you. It's causing insulin sensitivity problems. It is a direct correlation to obesity and diabetes, the diet sodas. So maybe go to 2 instead of 3. And then the next week, go to 1 instead of 2, so just try, if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. That's what I say. Just if it's got a list of ingredients that's more than about 5 and you can't pronounce it, just try to do something different. I don't know. Now I make my own ranch dressing. Now I make my own stuff. And it's not that hard. It's like mayonnaise and sour cream and some milk, a couple of seasonings. And I fought that for a long time too. I was like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
But then you start making it and you're like, that's not that bad. I mean,
Spent more time driving to the store to get the store-bought one.
Yeah. I use a lot of mason jars. They keep things really nice. So like if you're cutting up your produce, like if you get a thing of strawberries or something, cut it up and put it in a mason jar. It's going to last a lot longer in glass. That's just a little quick, more than the plastic I don't like anyway, but with mason jars, they take up less space in your fridge and they stay fresher a lot longer. So your strawberries, get them off of each other. Like if they're in a little container and you put them in your drawer, they're just going to go bad within a day. Get them off of each other, cut them into pieces, get the green, the stem off of it and throw it in a mason jar and have it ready to go. And I like to make tasting bars of stuff like for the kids, like just big bowls of fruits and vegetables and chickpeas and cold cuts. Like I said, pickles, whatever you want to put out there, just make it fun. So it's not this big deal. Your kids are like, okay, cool. We're having a tasting bar today for lunch or for dinner. But hopefully that'll be stuff that one day they'll look back and be appreciative. My 15-year-olds are not really that appreciative and they make fun of me because all of their friends and their moms make sourdough. And I said, one day you'll look back and be grateful, but
I got one big question. I think more than just me would like an answer or at least get your opinion on it. So I've always wanted to try raw milk. Is there, I don't know another word for it. I'm a normal person. I can drink milk. I'm not lactose intolerant or anything like that, or have any weirdness to anything dairy. Can I just get raw milk and just drink it as normal? Or do I need to do something with it in order to be able to, drink that? I don't know. I am totally oblivious to raw milk.
It's a great question. And I think we have been told, we have really been told and believe that it's dirty and it's bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just like what I told you about the seed oil. They had to sell it, right? They had to market the idea that meat was bad and that animals were dirty and seed oils were going to make your kids smarter. They literally said that. So they have trained us to believe that the way that it's naturally occurring is wrong, and we've got to do something to like modernize it or whatever.
Make it better.
It's
Right.
insane. It makes no sense when you say it out loud. You can literally, and I do it. I went to my friend's farm yesterday. She milks her cow at night. The baby drinks one part of the day. She milks her cow at night. They strain it. They get it really, really cold, really quick. You want to, when you do that, you really want to keep that raw milk like super cold. She even puts it in the freezer for a little bit, and then they put it in the fridge. And then even when, like if it's summertime and I'm transporting it, I will bring a cooler to put it in because you want to keep it really, really cold. And I just drink it straight. It is the best thing. You will be like, oh my goodness, what in the world? It is the sweetest, most delicious thing. You can make skim milk. I let it settle and I get the cream off the top and scoop it out and put it in a thing. And it is the best coffee creamer ever. It is an experience. Like get yourself some good coffee and some real raw milk cream. But that's cream. You can make butter. You can make your own whipped topping. It's super easy to do. And then what you have left is like skim milk. You can drink that. And then whatever when you make your butter, whatever's left from that, that's buttermilk. I mean, there's so many ways to use it and get so many benefits from it. And you'll just start to realize, wow, I can't go back. It's just like the meat. You won't be able to go back. I can't buy milk in the grocery store.
You're saying it doesn't need touch. Get it cold and
get it really cold. They strain it. I think they do a strain.
Yeah, I get that.
But it's amazing. And again, you'll be like, how did I drink that other mess?
Just this year in West Virginia, it is legal to buy and sell raw milk.
Right. That's what I was asking. Yeah.
I was wondering.
That's what I was asking.
Only 25?
No, 2024.
24 June. Yeah.
That is fantastic. So you guys can go and find like local websites that'll give you like raw milk places to go. And there are farms that do it, but I just have friends that, thank God, that are in my circle that I go and pick up from them. But
you had to buy a herd share, so you had to technically own part of the cow to be able to harvest the raw milk. But now you can just buy and sell raw milk commercially.
I'll buy a cow.
That's fantastic.
You gotta go milk it every morning.
No, I'm gonna get a cow and I'm gonna put it up on a thing where its udders just fall through in the kitchen, and you just right in my.
Listen,
look at this.
I can see you just putting your lips on the teat.
I was just Googling raw milk in West Virginia, and this fear-mongering headline popped up. Raw milk sales now legal in West Virginia as the avian flu cases rise in cattle.
Oh God.
So avian flu, a bird flu in cattle, whatever. I mean, just say it out loud. It's just insanity. I mean, it's every single thing that they say, I don't know if it's like a Holy Spirit discernment, but when I hear these things, I'm just like, that is so stupid. And so I think that's the other thing is like, go with your gut on stuff. I think we've been told to not do that. We've been told that, you don't know. And I think anytime that I hear something like that, I'm like, that's stupid. That's not real. Especially when it comes to mamas and their kids and stuff. If you've got a gut intuition about something about with your child, you're their advocate. You're the one that, step up for that. There's something to that. There's something really God-given about that. So we have a right to advocate and protect our kids. And I'm really a big mama bear about that kind of stuff. So I don't know. If it doesn't sound right, it's probably not right these days.
And mama tried.
I'm finding me some raw cow milk now. I
listen. I can't wait to hear how you liked it, because it will change your life. You'll be like, what in the world?
It's not the one we found is not too far away from us.
You're gonna love it.
There's a place in Charlestown.
Yep, it's exactly what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it so much. If you get it and it comes in a plastic jug, though, put it in half-gallon mason jars. Yeah, transfer it to a half-gallon mason jars.
I got them, the big ones, yeah.
Get it in a cold fridge, and it's so good. Oh, it's good. It'll last for like 3 weeks in a glass mason jar.
So put it in a frosted mason jar. There you go. Now you're talking my language.
It's so good. And we use it for smoothies. Like my boys use it for weight gainer, for like post-workout recovery. I tell them, I'm like, it's the perfect like God post-workout because it's got all the good fat. It's all the good things that you need. So you don't have to feel guilty about it. And most people who have lactose issues can tolerate raw milk, just like people who have gluten issues can tolerate freshly milled flour. that was something I stepped into this year. It was kind of a splurge. Like I bought a mill when they were on sale and I had a coupon, and now I get my wheat berries from Azure. That was not something that took me years. You know, it took me a long time. I've been doing this kind of stuff for a while. And I was like, I listened to a podcast by Sue Becker, and I was like, this is crazy. Even the organic bread flour at Costco is not that great for you. They've taken everything good out of it. So when you mill it yourself and it's got the whole wheat germ, it is so good for you. And people that have a lot of issues with gluten and think they can't eat it, I would encourage you to try some freshly milled flour and make some bread, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I can eat bread again. It's a great feeling.
By the way, Summer, at this place down in Charlestown, while you're there getting your raw milk, you can also cuddle a cow.
Oh, nice. I like cuddling.
I want
You give 'em a big
I want to
old
be able
hug.
to pull milk on one cow and then chop a steak off the other one. Right there.
Let me give it a good tender
I have
little-
thought about getting the dairy cow and putting a meat baby on that cow, so I only have to milk that cow once a day, and then we grow the meat out. Listen,
That's what I'm talking about. Mhm.
there's some ways to do this. We
Girl.
can put our heads together and figure this out.
I did hear
Yeah,
that
there's good stuff.
milk from cuddled cows tastes better. I've heard that.
Well, as long as you're cuddling it, Gary, I'm sure it's going to be super sweet.
I'm good with it. Love it. Get some raw cheese while you're there, because you talk about raw cheese, man.
Yeah, this place looks like it has a lot of different stuff, so I'll have to check it out.
I
Ooh,
might go every Saturday there.
cream cheese, like real cream cheese from a place like that.
Ooh, I bet that's so good.
It's probably so creamy instead of like getting that hard.
It will change your life. You can freeze it.
I might have to
It
put that
keeps
on.
fun.
I already told the wife
I'm about to open me up a creamery.
That's what I'm saying. People
don't
think that this is like
Gary.
restrictive. It's not restrictive. That's the cool part, is like when you get back to like basics in nutritional food, it actually like frees you up. You're like, oh my gosh, grass-fed butter is actually amazing for you. It has all your fat soluble vitamins. Eat them. Like, go eat them. They're good for you. It has your A, D, and K. Those are the ones you can't get. And they told us it was bad for us.
Yeah.
They did that on purpose. It's not bad for you. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
You know who doesn't want you drinking raw milk? Borden. I mean, that's why these laws.
The pharmaceutical companies that you might actually get healthy, you know, the big ag who's in bed with the big pharmaceutical company, they're all making money, and we're the ones suffering, eating fat free. Golly. Yep.
I like this name, Gary's Tactical Creamery and Gun Shop.
I do like to make homemade ice cream. I love making homemade
for
ice
everybody.
You got to figure out somewhere to put Gary's ATF or something like
There's
that.
something for everybody.
Close with that.
They'll even procure your meat in the back. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You can pick out your chicken, and we'll, use the gun.
There's cows on the gun range.
I would bring the whole family. The whole family would be excited.
You got your cow. You get to target practice on it to help kill it, and then you go bush it.
Really cool.
That's
I
right.
would bring the family.
You shoot it,
Sounds
you
like
buy
a
it.
good time.
You buy it.
That's right.
It sounds like a really good time.
Oh God, PETA's gonna be all over this podcast.
We're gonna shut that one down.
If they're upset, you're doing something right. You must be over the target, like
That's
literally. I figured it out.
Right.
I agree. Whatever.
Oh
I
man.
think it's like a rite of passage to get censored and kicked off. I mean,
Exactly. If you're not censored on YouTube, you're doing something wrong. I'm just tell you that.
crazy podcasters and their seed oil.
Yeah.
That's like, we're one of them.
Their raw milk.
They're
They wanna
just so
We
wild.
want to drink raw milk, own guns, and vote for Trump.
Man, it's a wicked combination.
I should just call this the Misinformation Podcast. That's what I
No
should-
fluoride. Your teeth.
And no fluoride. Jeez.
It's crazy. Yeah, just take back control. Don't be don't be overwhelmed by it. Get a buddy and do it with them. That's what I do. I text a friend. Like, I got that SCOBY yesterday, and that thing looks really weird. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna figure this out. And I've got a friend. She's like, just text me if you have questions. I'll help you through it. And it's just, I'm gonna brew some tea and put it in there. It's gonna,
See, that's one thing I can't get down with is kombucha.
It's weird.
I like kombucha.
Well, no, I
That's
don't.
gonna
The
be your new
flavor of
round
it
you're
is
gonna come
just
out with, Gary.
it's too fermented. for
I
me.
like it.
It's
the
very
same.
fermented.
I keep trying and I keep trying and I'm not there yet.
The
It's
more
very
fermented,
strange.
the better.
There was a time where I'd have told you were nuts if you told me to do something like this, but that's what I mean. You start down this pathway and you're like, a couple of years later, you're killing chickens and milling grain, and it's fun though. And once you start to realize you just can't go back to it, it's like, that's silly. I can't believe we used to eat that. That's wild.
Yeah.
And then now, like when he wrote that comment about MSG, the reason I get so viscerally like crazy is because now I literally can tell if I've had it, because within a couple of minutes I start getting like blurred vision. That's how neurotoxic that stuff is. But there was a time where I ate it, didn't know why I felt so bad.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are just walking around thinking that they just feel bad because genetics, and it just is what it is. And this is getting older, and that's not true. You're being poisoned. You are being poisoned.
It's their normal. That's what
You're not crazy. It's not just your hormones. It's not just your nuts. You are being poisoned. It is
Sometimes
happening.
you don't realize what good feels like because you're just so used to feeling bad. You think that's how you're supposed to feel, and you don't understand what good feels like.
Yep.
It's so true. Yep. There's like whole industries about it. There's whole doctor specialties that are done on the backs of this nonsense of being poisoned.
Yeah, Carissa, we actually you ordered some of the sea clay supplement.
Yeah, I ordered the minerals she recommended. I didn't catch the sea clay.
That's what it is. So if you ordered the concentrates encapsulated sea clay, that's a mineral supplement that I recommend, and I like Concentrates brand. My favorite, they have a bunch of them. Emerson Ecologics is a great website to go order supplements, but if you can find it on whatever, if they have a direct Amazon link, that's cool too. But Concentrates, TRACE.
Yeah, I ordered the mineral drops by accident, I guess.
The drops are fine. They just taste really salty and kind of weird. If you put them in a smoothie, you won't tell. But I like the drops because they are, I think, one of the most bioavailable ways to get it. I think it's fine. I did that for years with this. It just tastes like seawater. It's hard for me to sell to patients because they don't want to take it.
Yeah.
So I like a gray label one from Concentrates. It's got bee pollen in it too. And bee pollen's a great source of food-based copper. And I like food-based copper for iron transport. So it helps with inflammatory issues because we don't have a way to get rid of toxic iron. It's another whole thing too. Everything's been iron fortified, and that's on purpose to fuel chronic disease. Yeah, it's not great.
We're doomed.
Yeah. You're not. That's the thing. You're not.
I'm
If
kidding.
you listen to the government, you will be sick,
Yes.
tired, and poor.
I'm kidding.
I mean, that's
But
the
if you
truth.
work for the government, you'll just be sick, tired, and work for the government.
That's true.
Right. I
And
just couldn't live in the cognitive dissonance anymore. And
Greatly.
you are being poisoned, and there are some things you can't help and you can't control, and that's what I mean. I pray over the food, I pray over the stuff. I'm like, Lord, just protect us and put a hedge of protection around the kids and our families and our bodies, and I will try to do the rest. And you just help me with my discernment part of it, because there are times where I literally will get a discernment about it. I'm like, that does not sound right. And I used to think that was silly, and now I'm like, no, that's protection. And that's those of us that have come through this the last 5 years realize we're the ones that, didn't fall for this mess. And that's a reason. There's a reason for that. That's not an accident. I believe in that stuff. It's good stuff.
Well, Ty is turning lights off on you over there. He's like, it's time to shut this thing down. He's like, oh, the
I
lights.
need to go get some raw milk.
Yeah. He's like, I gotta go order my supplements and buy my raw milk. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, listen, Carissa,
Cod liver oil. I do like cod liver oil. I did say on the last podcast I like Jigsaw. Y'all, I've done that for years. It has canola oil in it. I am so frustrated. So I take that back. There are 2 brands of cod liver oil that I like. It's Rosita, Rosita. It's a Norwegian cod liver oil, and it's very, very clean. And that is an idiot-proof way to get your vitamin D, A, and K. So those are your fat-soluble vitamins that are hard to eat. So if you don't like to eat a lot of that kind of stuff, then cod liver oil is really good for that. You need vitamin A to convert T4 into T3 for your thyroid. So anybody with a thyroid issue, they need to be eating a lot of retinol or vitamin A, and that's the fat-soluble vitamin, not beta-carotene. And that's really hard to get in the food we eat. So cod liver oil is a great way to get it. But you want to make sure you're getting a good source of cod liver oil, Rosita brand. And there's Green Pasture cod liver oil. That's a fermented cod liver oil. Both of those are on the Weston A price list. And so a lot of the supplements on Weston A price, I do recommend. I think they're really high quality and they've vetted a lot of it because it's not junk. So
I got it.
I love minerals and cod liver oil. Those are two of my things. And I love magnesium too. Magnesium's a great add, but not all magnesiums are created equal. So I can talk about that if you want me to. But, don't go to Walmart and get mag citrate because it is a laxative, and that is not good.
Woo!
Don't do that.
Woo! You told me to take this.
Don't take that.
I can't even make my commute. What is going on?
If you need some help in that department, maybe, but don't take that daily. That is not a good idea. You are not going to feel good. Mag glycinate, mag malate, mag threonate. Those are decent brands that you're going to absorb better.
It's true. You got me.
Hey, you can't even read it,
You got me.
TG.
I can't read
It
it.
just
but
scribbles.
He knows
Well,
what it is.
like I said, what we'll do, Carissa, I'll be in touch with you the next couple of days. We're getting ready to go to Vegas for SHOT Show, but after that, we need to get you back on because I feel like we just once again just barely
Yeah.
scratched the surface.
Crashed it.
And
Oh,
I
good. This is
more to
super
cover.
fun. I love it. It's fun. And I
We
don't want people to feel intimidated.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
appreciate you taking so much of your time to help
Yeah.
give us some good knowledge, some good
It's an
start.
honor. I
Yeah.
appreciate y'all. Yeah, thank you for having me.
This
And
stuff is life changing. So the fact that you're taking your time to help all of us on here,
that's what it's all about. I just want people to feel like it's a hopeless feeling when you're at the mercy of a system that's set up to keep you sick. That's a hopeless feeling. And,
Really?
we've all seen that, personally with our families or in our own health. And that's not something that you have to live under. I don't believe that. So hopefully that encourages people and that they're left with an encouragement in that you don't have to live like that. That's
Yeah.
a lot.
And speaking of which, folks, look, we really do appreciate you coming on and watching this episode. But what will really help is if every person, we got 92 people in the stream right now, and there'll be people that watch this a lot more people later on. If you could share this episode, every single one of you, it'll get the views that it deserves.
Yeah.
And
you can
then
help your friends and family by
you'll
sharing
be
the
helping
knowledge
your
with
friends
them.
and family. And then next time we have Chris on, we'll have even a bigger show and a bigger show and a bigger show. And that's what it's about. So if you guys can help us by sharing this episode, that'll go a long ways in getting this information out to people, and it'll change people's lives. It really will. I mean, that is no joke. We can sit here and have fun and, get 1,000 people on a podcast about, Vegas or J13, and that's great. And that's fun. But this is the stuff that actually changes people's lives. So if you could share this,
that they have control over.
yeah, we'd really appreciate that. And we'll start having Chris on a very regular basis. I think there's just so much to cover and so much more information coming out, and things change too. Science, new information comes out, and we need to be able to adapt to that as well.
There's stuff that I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I did not know that. So it's always like that. And if you have a clinician that's not willing to admit that they're wrong and
Change their thinking.
research it, then you need to fire that person because nobody's perfect, and things are changing, and but there's hope in this, and that's what it's all about. So I appreciate it. Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all.
This is amazing.
Well, listen, folks,
Your local farmers, your local folks, they're the ones.
Absolutely. We'll get some information down the links. I know a lot of people are asked for that. We'll get some links down in the description rather. And again, we'll start doing this on a regular basis. Maybe we can get Carissa to do some stuff for us that we'll put out on a newsletter as well. I'll talk to her about that, see if I can.
That sounds super fun. And then I can get my nerdy dietitian husband who's so cute and smart. So
Love you got to get him on there. I was telling Ty to make sure.
I know. I tried, but he said he wanted to be better prepared, so he might come on another show. But he's definitely got all the science and math background.
Tell him for sure. Sometime in February, for sure, we will have you guys back on. So he has a month to prepare. So get prepared. We don't want to hear any excuses.
Yeah,
I'm not prepared by then. All right.
That's awesome. Thanks, Summer. Thank you. I appreciate it, Gary. Y'all
Thanks,
enjoy your night. We appreciate y'all so much.
You as well. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
folks, again, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share this. It's really important. And we really appreciate you showing up. When are we? I guess we'll still be here next Wednesday,
yes,
right?
we will.
All right. So we'll be still here next Wednesday. I think we'll end up doing a couple of counter media podcasts as well. Thank you all for all the love and support. We really do appreciate it. But until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.